other countries' intelligence communities have decided and have concluded, based off of information they have, plus this video that we showed you, that there's some sus shit going on, and that Iran is probably the ones that are doing it.
I want to do my part in supporting that small business and supporting that creator, because that's what I want people to do to us. And I think I would be a massive hypocrite if I was not able to put my money where my mouth was and do that.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan, cause that's what's that? Let's get ready.
And then I do. And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
This is Saturday, June 15th, 1:14 p.m.
Welcome back, everybody.
Episode 61.
Oh, I crushed you. My bad.
Oh, sorry. I almost forgot. That's why.
See, that's like the best part about the podcast is these opening little flubs that we do probably once every other couple weeks. So welcome back, everybody, to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on weekly news, pop culture, and sports. And the best part about the whole deal, once again, it's built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come on and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and continue our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. That's the aminos. So, as always, we are your hosts. I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And coming up on this week's show, the U.S. Congress prepares to go to court over civil indictments. We have increased tensions in Iran, if you can believe they could get any tighter.
What?
And then we're going to get in some real grab baggy style stuff here, because we've officially hit that point, I think, where we've gone for a few weeks and like not been able to get to certain things that we want to hit.
That's what we do.
We've got the collective, and we're going to reach into that grab bag and see what comes out.
Yeah.
But before we do any of that, cheers, homie. Drinking this spiced habanero cider from Fin River Cidery.
Belching Beaver. Phantom Bride. Yeah, that's what the brewery is. It's delicious. I'm excited to have it. I have never had that before. I bought it because it had some sweet ass cans and it was an IPA. Cool fucking can.
So I'm excited to drink most of the rest of that 6-pack later today.
That was the first thing I said, was that it was a cool can. Do you have any more beers with the cats on them?
I think I have one left, and I'm saving it for Carolina.
Okay.
I think I have about one left of all of our good beers that we brought back up. And so I stashed them on the side.
That's funny.
Well, you know, come home from work every day and drink a little beer.
They were delicious. They were delicious.
Oh, man. I'm trying to remember if there was anything that we wanted to talk about before we got into the real stuff. But maybe before we do that, you should plug the shit out of us.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. We can also, I mean, not also, but obviously we can be found, Salt of the Streets Facebook. You know, that's where we do our live streams and everything. That's where it originates there. We have, Jesus Christ. I'm struggling.
You got this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Instagram
know.
at Salt the Streets.
You got this. Instagram, Salt of the Streets. Facebook, Salt of the Streets. We have our own personal social medias. I'm at Salt of the Street on Twitter and alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. And Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find all of this shit on saltofthestreets.com. It's our own personal website that my wife built. It is fantastic. Baby, you're the best. YouTube Salt of the Streets also. Boom. That's it. That's everything.
Isn't it funny how like you have these like things you can just spit out, and every now and again you try to reach and grab them and you just can't fucking find it.
I thought too hard.
Wait a minute. What am I doing
too hard about it. Psyched myself out. I wasn't sure where you were going, so I was like, all right, I got to be prepared. And then you were like, what about social medias? And I was like, oh, fuck, where's it
I'm
at?
not prepared for that.
We got this. We got this.
Well, you did a great recovery, my friend. And so we're going to do something where we've never done before. And we're going to do an ad read. For this lovely little thing that you might be listening to on right now, Podcoin.
Yes, it is the new app that I referenced last week. That is fucking rad. That Colin will get, although the ad read will get more into it, but you can listen to podcasts through it. You listen to your podcast through it, and then you get coins, virtual coins. if you will, in exchange for the minutes that you listen, and then you take those coins and you turn them into fucking
gift
cards
all
for
sorts of
places,
shit.
and Beats headphones if you listen for a million
donate
years.
to charities.
Donate to charities, yeah, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you just change the app that you listen to, and they did awesome stuff for us. So we're going to do an ad read for them so that they can continue doing awesome stuff for us. So
Boom.
That is what we're going to do this week. That's going to be Colin's deal, and then I'm going to do the next one because that's what I'm doing. So,
Boom.
Yep. That's it. So what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Sarah Sanders first or something else? That's just the first thing I have written here.
Yeah, let's do Sarah Sanders first.
Okay. So
I am not married to any order whatsoever. Hey, everyone. I really hope you're loving this week's episode of the Salt of the Streets podcast. Well, did you know that you can actually get paid for listening to this podcast right now? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks. Or if you're a really good person, you can even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. So here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a very special promo code just for you. Simply use our code SALTPOD, that's SALTPOD, SALTPOD, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us there, you can get your next iced venti caramel macchiato, or if you're me, grande nitro cold brew, totally on us. All you gotta do is listen. So if you haven't downloaded this app, pause this podcast right now, download that thing, insert our promo code SALTPOD, SALTPOD, and get your free 300 Podcoin courtesy of Salt of the Streets. I know it's certainly changed the way I listen to podcasts, and I know it will for you too. Now, back to the show.
Excuse me, Sarah Sanders, as I've often referred to as a bulldog of a woman, because I believe that she is. And that is not, and and that's not like she looks like a bulldog. I mean, like she was mad aggressive and would just tear motherfuckers up.
Oh yeah,
when she was out there on the stand. So
she was no Sean Spicy Wiener.
No, not at all. It was announced that she was going to resign effective the end of the month, so she'll be here through to the end of the month. And I guess right now, I was still under the impression that she was the acting director of communications, but she's just the press secretary right now. The director of communications position has been vacant since Bill Shine left in March. I didn't even know that Bill Shine got hired there.
Nope.
So that's how unimportant that was. But that's why I'm like, who the fuck is Bill Shine? Like, I never even heard of that guy before. So
that's because I think Trump runs most of his own press stuff.
Yes, there has not been a formal press conference since in 94 days, and that was as of the 13th, so it's 96 days since there's been a formal press briefing with her in the White House press room answering questions from reporters. 96 days. So it's been over 3 months.
Damn.
Which is...
That throws my timeline way off. I was trying to figure about this.
Yeah.
Because I had this moment in time, and I thought it was in like April. But regardless of when it actually was, right, Sarah Sanders has been out of the public view for a long time.
For a while.
And I think it has to do with when she did a press conference about the Mueller report.
Yes.
And they were talking about James Comey and why he got fired. And she was saying that a lot. She talked to countless members of the FBI.
Yes.
And that were just over the moon and happy about how Trump fired Comey and all this stuff. And then when the Mueller report came out, it turns out not what she said. And she told the Mueller report that she said that with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. And that's just personal way she felt or something like that. So long story short, she got caught hard in one of these lies that she told.
It was in 2017 that she was saying that, like when James Comey was fired, obviously. And then this article that I have here is from April 19th. So
that's the same one, I think.
Yeah. And that's when the Mueller report came out. Mm-hmm. And so that's obviously when the information came out that she had obviously lied about this. So, But I don't know the date of the last press briefing. I mean, I can look it up real quick, but it's like I said, it's been 96 days since then, so I can see real quick.
But yeah, I was kind of trying to correlate those two things together, as that was the thing that made it so that she had kind of stepped back and stepped down, and she hasn't come back since then. And so in my mind, I've been kind of waiting for this to happen, because usually the lack of, at least in this administration, the lack of a press secretary like that coming out and doing press conferences is not common. You know,
no, not at all.
This is why we've had three press secretaries already, right? We had Sean Spicer. We had the Mooch.
Scaramucci was the director of communications,
director of comms,
but he did the press conferences like 2 times while he was there, you know, in his 3 days or what the fuck it was.
3 or 4 days. That was the greatest.
Let's see.
Man, I wish he would come back. It just made life so much more exciting.
Scaramucci.
Yeah.
It was fun for a little bit.
You know, that season of Trump that season of Trump was pretty good. I like the way Ben Shapiro talks about how, like, you know, in the latest episode of the Trump presidency, and he thinks of it as like a sitcom almost.
You're right.
It makes a lot of sense, man.
Do you think, while I'm scrolling through the White House YouTube so that I can find the date of the last press conference? Yeah. So this one is it says 3 months ago, and it was on March 11th. Was the date of the last official White House press briefing, that's a fucking long time. So do you think that this leaves the door open for the next press secretary, or even the press secretary of the next president to decide whether or not they're going to do press briefings every day? I mean, because like you said, this is the first administration that's done it this way, you know?
Yeah.
And they've all taken advantage of this, because it's not just for, in one of these articles that I was reading, it was, there was a partial interview with one of Obama's press secretaries, right? And she was talking about, I can't remember her name, I didn't write it down or anything, but she was talking about how important the press briefings are as a tool for the administration, because it's an easy way to convey to the rest of the administration what your focus is and what the priorities are for the president, you know, because that's what he's talking about. That's what's being put out in the press briefing that day. So that's what people should be working on, you know? And so it was an easy way, not only for the public, because it's our right to know what's going on, but also for the administration to dictate to everybody else without having to send out a memo or an email or call everybody and tell them this is what we really want to be working on right now, you know? And so I mean, it doesn't surprise me, because like you said, the president does so much of his own press, even just on Twitter, and you know, every time he goes somewhere, he's answering questions before he's getting on the airplane, before he's getting on the helicopter, he's out there.
Yeah, that's his media background. That's, you know, his marketing, branding type of thing. Like, that's how he runs things. He is in charge of his PR.
The numerous Rose Garden ceremonies or you know, press conferences that we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Rose Garden.
So he's handling all that shit by himself.
The only 3 press secretaries that I'm seeing for Barack Obama, so maybe that was communications director or something, but Josh Earnest, Jay Carney, and Robert Gibbs.
Yeah, so maybe it was the communications director for Obama. I don't remember, but I remember it was someone from the Obama administration. So obviously don't quote me directly on that. It's paraphrasing, but she was talking about what an important tool it was, you know? And I always thought that it was weird that they didn't do more press briefings, you know, but there's so much inconsistency in the administration, so many people doing so many different things. Even if you just take the Iran thing, for example, right? The president, when this first started, when we first talked about it 2 weeks ago, there were such different messages coming from Mike Pompeo and coming from the president, you know, Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, they're talking about how, you know, all options on the table. We're looking at moving soldiers. We got battleships in the area. We got carriers in the area. Like, we're doing that right now. And the president's like, the last thing that I want is a war with Iran. You know, he's like, I don't want anything like that. We don't need any more people in the Middle East. None of that shit. Like, you know, and it was like that for a week until, I mean, even now they're not exactly on the same page, you know?
Oh yeah. We'll get into that later, because it's it's so fucking confusing when people do that. I mean,
Right.
I can see kind of a messed up version of like good cop, bad cop type of thing, where you have the administration officials handling the business, and then you have the president who is like, "No, I don't want to do this. I mean, they're taking care of this, but like, no, I don't want this, man. I don't want any part of this."
It almost seems like it's easier because the president is publicly speaking so frequently through Twitter. You know, it's easier to just do that and let him say whatever he's going to say than for Sarah Sanders to have to try and turn around and react to everything he's saying all the time, because he might be changing his mind while she's standing out here on the fucking podium giving this press briefing, you know? So it's like, oh, he just tweeted that what you just said isn't true. How do you feel about that? And she's like, oh, well, you know, the president, blah, blah, blah. And she's got to try and fucking figure it out while she's standing there. Like that's, so I'm sure that it's just easier for all of them.
To Sarah Sanders, just for a second, she was really fucking good at her job.
Yeah.
Her job was to get up on the podium and shill for the president.
And that's exactly what she did.
And she was damn good at it. And it was
she was damn good at it.
But no one can say that she was bad at her job. We will say that much.
We used to watch them and listen to them all the time at work. And
they're so good.
I still would, yeah, because it was interesting. And I remember just laughing sometimes because I'm like, you bitch.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I see what you're doing.
Like that was smart. That was fucking crafty is what it was. Yeah, no, she's good.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Because I think you kind of touched on it before, but past administrations haven't conducted press conferences and press briefings as much, like even slightly close to where the Trump administration has. I mean, we used to have anyways, like a shit ton of them all the time. Sarah Sanders is always out there. Sean Spicer, always out there. That's kind of counterintuitive to what the norm has been for the last few decades, but I don't think it's going to go away. Even, let's just say Democrats get in power. Democrats control the House. They control the Senate. They control the executive. I don't see it going away.
So you're saying that they've been less frequent but more consistent?
Trump administration?
No. Before this.
Oh, no. We haven't seen as many. The pure amount of press conferences, press briefings in the Trump administration, I think kind of dwarfs the standard operating procedure over the last few decades. No?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I might have to look that up. That's just the general feeling I get because she's out there all the time. Sarah Sanders is out there all the time. You know, I feel like I've never seen so many press briefings before in my life. And maybe that's just the fact that we're coming online and watching these things so much more, or they're just more readily available because they're on more than just C-SPAN. But I'm not totally sure about that.
Let's see. This is from fucking
Quartz.
Yeah, I was really looking up the date more than anything. It's from 2018. It's like a number of press briefings.
I'll be curious to look at the numbers.
Yeah. The briefings per month for Democrats. Yeah, no, they're usually more.
Really?
Yes. Like, so Sean Spicer did between 16 and 18 per month. Sarah Sanders is doing between 10 and 12. Whereas, like, these blue dots are for Democrats.
Yeah.
So these are the highest ones, right? And this is Obama's, right? The Ernest was the last of Obama's press secretaries, and he did 9,000. 9,000 words was the briefing length.
Okay.
And this is the briefings per month between 22 and 24.
So we're actually pretty behind the curve.
Yes. Far behind the curve already. Not to mention it. So this contentious exchanges per briefing. So Obama's last guy also had the most instances of deflecting and press questioning, honesty, bias, or completeness. So
really?
So he also questioned mad shit. So
that's interesting then. Well, yeah. I guess that kind of negates my question.
So yeah. But this is just from one website or from this whatever, you know, so that's only what we're looking at. But that doesn't necessarily surprise me for, like you said, this president, because he's not a general politician. He has a way bigger media history than most of these politicians already do. So that's been his deal from the beginning, is saying a bunch of his own shit, you know? So it seems that it's almost not
It's not even that necessary
I think that it
anymore.
was easier. It's not quite as necessary because he's talking so much,
Directly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, every time he tweets, that's essentially like a mini press conference.
Exactly. I'll grab this bong real quick.
Do it up, girl. Do it up. Yeah, I'm curious if this is going to continue. I mean, I think it will, just due to the fact that it's going to be 2020, 2021. That's what I'm not sure about. Social media stuff and all this. I don't think it just plays so well to politics when you can touch base to the American public so easily and so impromptu.
Yeah.
At any point, I think this is going to be a part of politics that's going to be around for the long haul now.
And so you think that the next president is going to do the same type of shit?
I'll be curious. I will. That's something I'd really be curious to see if they do it.
And I think it depends on who it is because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not that she's not running for president, but were she to become the next president, she's going to use social media in a way different way than fucking Joe Biden is if he's going to become president.
Yeah,
because they're going to be vastly different.
With Trump, for the most part, his Twitter feed is him generally.
Yes.
You can always tell when it's not him tweeting because it's worded totally different.
Well, and he doesn't retweet that much stuff. I don't think most of it is actual original tweets that he's laying out.
And I think depending on who does get into office, if it's Andrew Yang, he'll probably be running his shit.
Yang.
Because he is all over the social media business.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe Biden, no, it'll be his fucking press secretary or whatever taking care of it. And it'll be an interesting change to watch. We'll say that much.
They'll be using the POTUS handle, not their own personal one.
Yeah.
Because the president hardly ever uses the POTUS handle. He always does
now
at real Donald Trump.
Yeah. Because that was, I think, after when they passed that bill that basically required the recording of the POTUS tweets as public record and stuff. Yeah. He's like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
I'm going to voice all my shit out at real Donald Trump.
And now he just does crazy shit.
And it's a good thing he's not a drinker because otherwise, there'd be some fucked up shit getting thrown out on that POTUS account by accident. Richard Nixon style.
Bad shit.
Yeah. So an end of an era for Sarah Sanders.
Yeah. And I know, as far as I know, I have not seen any leads on who's next up for the press secretary job. I don't know that people are really, it's been so long, obviously people are frustrated about it. I had let it go, but for the first month, I was really frustrated that there wasn't one because they were happening fairly frequently, maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times a week, it was happening, but not very often. But then there was, like I said, a month and a half where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why is there no fucking press briefing happening? And that's why. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see how long it takes for that position to be filled.
Shit, if it does.
If it gets filled.
We're coming down. It's
got 2 years left.
Yeah. The Democratic debates are in 2 weeks. Yeah. The first one. And no, both of them are happening in 2 weeks, but
they're splitting them
but
up.
It's still pretty far out. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff on that we can hit if we get time later.
Yeah.
But, the actual election itself is still way the fuck out. And so there's nothing.
November of 2020, in case you guys didn't know.
Yeah, you should. And then inauguration is February?
It's January.
January 21st?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I was thinking February.
I don't know.
Either way.
Way too late, motherfucker.
Way too late.
Way too late, motherfucker.
So I think we could probably pivot on to Iran if you want.
Let's do it.
Given the fact that this is probably something we could have had a lot more press conferences around.
Yes.
Would be kind of nice.
Yeah, because Mike Pompeo is the one that's been out talking, which I get it's not.
It's kind of his job, I guess.
Right. Makes sense. But you still would think, because he's coming at it from the executive branch point of view, what they're going to do, and I guess the press secretary comes at it from more of the president himself,
Yeah.
So
because this is all about foreign policy.
Right. So I think that it would be helpful.
Yeah.
But
makes sense for the State Department to handle that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Obviously we're not going to get that now though. So we talked about this 2 weeks ago, or talked about something similar to this 2 weeks ago, some oil tankers being attacked in the Strait of Hormuz. And this week on the 13th, there was 2 more ships that were attacked, the Kukuka Courageous and the Empty Front Altair, right? So there's 2 more oil tankers that were attacked in the Persian Gulf. Mike Pompeo and the administration are blaming Iran, right? But they provide no evidence. So I want to talk about that, right? Because
you're reading the New York Times article?
I have a New York Times article. Yeah, that's what that particular sentence is from.
Yeah, because I remember reading that.
And then I also looked up a Fox News article, right? Because I wanted to see how they differ, which is generally what we do here, right? Look up an article on each side. And the difference in wording between the New York Times article and the Fox News article was really kind of shocking to me, right? That it almost seemed like the New York Times article was trying to make it seem like they're trying to make a war with Iran. Yeah. You know, that they're trying to take shots at the president, at the administration, at the executive branch, any way that they possibly can, you know? Whereas the Fox News article, when they're talking about Mike Pompeo not having presented any physical evidence, you know, they're like, the intelligence community and other countries' intelligence communities have decided and have concluded based off of information they have, plus this video that we showed you, that there's some sus shit going on and that Iran is probably the ones that are doing it, you know?
Yeah. Especially considering that's an Iranian Revolutionary Guard ship.
So I think that it's super weird, just the difference in those two things, and that I think illustrates why it's so important to read more than one article about what's going on, right? Because if you just read the New York Times article,
that one sentence could change the way you look at that.
It will definitely lean you more towards assuming that the Trump administration and the people who are in the administration are out to try and start a war with Iran. Even though the president has said directly, I don't want that. He's shown that in his policy by pulling people out of the Middle East. The last thing he wants is another war in the Middle East. He's talked against all these long wars for a super long time. Like since he's been president, that's what he's talked about, is getting people out of the Middle East. Regardless of how you feel about him, we don't have any evidence for President Trump directly to assume, other than his ties with Syria, that he wants more active duty soldiers in the Middle East. Yep. You know what I'm saying? We don't have any evidence to believe that.
In that little audio piece that we cut last week in the show where President Trump was talking about the military-industrial complex, if you listen to that whole interview, that was a Fox News interview, he actually addresses that, and he's saying how he wants to pull people out, and he said, but the Republican establishment at this point, the people that Mike Bolton and Bolton and Pompeo, that they want to be there. They want to send more troops.
And I want to be clear, I said that the president himself, he has shown that there's no evidence that he wants more troops in the Middle East, right? Mm-hmm. When we talked about this 2 weeks ago, we did discuss there is discussions in the administration about sending as many, I believe, as 120,000 troops to Iran, to that area, right? Mm-hmm. So there are discussions in there, but I'm talking about the president as an individual has not shown any inclination towards wanting any type of military action in Iran, right?
No matter what you read, he personally hasn't given us any evidence to tie his motive to war to him.
And I think that's probably part of the reason there aren't already more troops in Iran, right?
I think so.
If he was on the same tilt as John Bolton and as Mike Pompeo, we would already be over there. We would already have people, because I mean, we have ships in the Gulf now, and we have carriers there, but there was not a huge increase in troops other than the people who were on those ships.
There was like a bomber squadron was sent over there, and then some Navy assets.
Right. But there is not, like we said, the move of the 120,000 troops that is being discussed there. And I think that if he did want that, then we'd already be there. It would already be on the way, you know? And as far as I know, no one's been ordered, to go over. As far as I know, and maybe we're incorrect, but that's,
as of right now, that's kind of where we haven't heard anything yet, which, we keep our ear to the grindstone on that one pretty well.
So the reports from the administration, from the intelligence communities, are that there were limpet mines, right? Yes. Which are sticky mines that were on the ships that exploded and caused the fires, right? There have been a couple of different, slightly different stories, where like someone who was on one of the boats said that they thought they got hit by a torpedo, but they weren't sure there was another person. And that was just people on the Kokuka Courageous, right? And the people who owned that boat that were saying they thought they got hit by a torpedo. The people on the other boat were saying they were like, we don't know. There was an explosion and there was a fire, and that's all that we know about what happened here. And then there was video, like we said, that was released that shows an Iranian guard vessel that goes up to one of the tankers, pulls something off of the side, and then speeds away before any U.S. military personnel are able to go and recover what is believed to be an unexploded ordnance device on the side of the ship.
Now you know why they call them limpet mines. You know what a limpet is? It's those little, like, almost barnacle-looking things. They suck onto stuff. And, yeah, it's this kind of weird-looking triangular, mine, essentially, that's stuck on this the hull of this ship. And so it looks kind of like a limpet. Interesting.
That's wild.
Just, fun facts.
Fun facts.
Yeah, fun facts in this devastating fucking incident.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I showed you that video yesterday of the Japanese owner of that ship.
Yes.
Because one of them is owned by a Japanese... I don't know if it's a Japanese company or just the Japanese owner of the company. And then the other one is a Norwegian-held vessel. But, he was on there and he was just saying, and he made sure that it was essentially just a best guess or speculation or something at this point. But apparently he was kind of throwing out the idea that, some of the sailors on that boat thought they saw something fly into the boat.
Yeah.
And so now they're, just muddying the waters.
Indicating that maybe a plane was out there and had shot some type of missile at the boat.
Yeah.
There was a naval plane in the area that caught the video footage. So when we were talking about it last night, it makes sense to me that maybe they heard the explosion, looked up and saw an airplane and assumed, that, or maybe there was a torpedo and they saw the shadow or something and then looked up and saw a plane, it's
eyewitness testimony in a traumatic and stressful situation is not a good basis of evidence.
No. And it's even possible that they put mines on the side of the ships and then shot torpedoes at them, and to add to that's totally possible.
Yep.
And maybe they hit in the wrong place on this one and it didn't explode the mine, So it's all things are possible, right? So as I'm watching this, as I'm reading these different articles, that I said that are telling me different stories, I find myself kind of stuck between two different positions. And I know in the past, the government has lied to get us into wars. There is a military-industrial complex. There are people who want wars. Dick Cheney exists. People like Dick Cheney exist that make money when the United States is actively involved in military conflict, right?
Dude, I'm so glad because when this first came out, and I was talking to one of the guys at work about it, and he goes, "Yeah, the fucking what are the odds that this could just be a black flag?" And it was bad. I think that my mind instantly shot to Gulf of Tonkin when I first heard about this, and I'm going, I don't want to assume that, but it doesn't seem out of the possibility,
and it's not, right? So so I'm stuck between that and wanting to have faith in the current state of the intelligence community, right? Because with the people who currently sit at the head of the intelligence communities, I don't have any reason to believe that they're not doing their job.
They called the Russia thing from the beginning.
They have not directly fallen in line with President Trump on everything that he said.
Nope.
Christopher Wray specifically, when he has called shit out, when he's the director of the FBI, when things have happened, he was straight up about it. When the government was shut down, he was posting videos saying, this is unacceptable. People are not being paid. We work for you. We're here. Pay us. Do your job, right?
Who is a Trump appointee?
Yes, right? Gina Haspel, same thing. Since she's been the director of the CIA, I have not heard anything bad that she's done, right? So far as I know, she's doing an excellent job. She is dissenting from the president when he deserves to be dissented from, right? I don't believe as of now that there is a deep state that exists in the intelligence communities, right? Like I said, especially when it comes to Gina Haspel and Christopher Wray. Those are both President Trump appointees. If there's a deep state that it exists,
it's not in his favor.
And you're talking about, and no, the deep state he's talking about is not in his favor, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. And I don't believe that exists. I think that there were some people like Peter Strzok, like Lisa Page that existed in the intelligence communities. And I'm sure that there still are, right? That did not love the president. But as we've talked about in the past, there was an inspector general investigation that showed they were biased, but it did not affect any of their work. If anything, it negatively affected Hillary Clinton because they focused so much on her, right? So, because they focused so much on President Trump that hers got put on the back burner and all that information waited to get exposed, right? So,
the perfect storm of shit show and laziness.
So I don't buy that there is a deep state in the intelligence communities that wants to take down the president as he sits now. I don't believe that exists, right? So I have a hard time believing that. I don't know, man.
That it's false intelligence.
I feel like for that to be the case, to think that the intelligence communities are in it with the executive branch or with the military to try and lead towards something militaristic in Iran, right? To believe that, you have to believe that Mike Pompeo left enough people in his wake in the CIA that are still off of tendrils of his, that will buy into what he's doing, that are hawkish enough, just like him, that are following his lead, that when he's saying this is what's happening with Iran, they're going to say the same thing in the CIA, so the CIA can match with the Secretary of State, and he has that evidence to work towards it, you know? And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that there's, like I said, that there's people he still has left, agents in the CIA, that are just so fucking in love with Mike Pompeo that they're going to adjust their reporting and their evidence to support whatever he's saying. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm dumb fucking wrong. Maybe that's the case, but we're not going to know for fucking 50 years, until all this stuff is unredacted, until all of it is open for people to see. We're not going to fucking know. But as it sits right now, I don't believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that Mike Pompeo is really hawkish. I think that John Bolton is really hawkish. And I think that we knew those things when they got into these positions. I don't think the president wants war in the Middle East because it's going to look fucking terrible for him. And he will not get elected a second time if he sends more troops to the Middle East. And he knows that, right? He does not want that. That's the last fucking thing that he wants. So,
because it's one thing for him, it's kind of a side topic, but for him to fail on a campaign promise has much different implications, has much more intense implications, I think, than any other politician before him. And even if he doesn't say, with the wall, he ran on the wall, well, due to political bureaucracy, we're not probably going to get his wall in the way that he thinks. But
so not the way that he ran on it, no.
Yeah, but he very publicly fights for it and has never stopped fighting for it.
Still talks about it.
Whereas if he was to blatantly pull away from one of his promises about pulling out of bad wars and stupid wars and all the stuff that he ran on.
Iran deal, TPP.
Yeah, and if he actually went counter to that on just one of his campaign promises.
Especially this
There's no way he's getting realected.
Especially this late.
Yeah, this late in the game like that. Because he's done his trade stuff. He's been hard on the border. He's done a lot of his campaign promises. Not so much the outcomes have been the same, but he's pursued them.
Right.
And if he pulls back on this and ends up sending troops in, that's a game over, I think, for him.
Right. No, I absolutely agree.
And
before I do, I think that he's almost finding himself in almost between a rock and a hard place right now. And I'm not trying to sympathize with the president, but he's picked people for whatever reason that he picked them, for whatever reason that he picked Mike Pompeo and then he picked John Bolton. He picked those people and now he's at really supremely conflicting opinions with them about something that really, like you said, can make or break his presidency right now. Yeah. He's so deep into the game. There's no one who's come out as of now to say they're running against the president in the Republican Party, right? But still, it could happen anytime. And if he's going to make a decision like this, or if the administration is going to make a decision like this, and troops do get sent into Iran or in the surrounding areas, right? There are going to be dissenters in the Republican Party. There are going to be people who come out and say, this is not what we should be doing. I don't support this. We need to, redo the AUMF, all this, whatever. They're going to use that as a tool to run against him and try and primary him so they can beat whoever the fuck it is that comes out of the Democratic Party. Because unless it's fucking, one of 4 people out of the Democratic Party, they're getting their dick stomped in the dirt. It's, you know what I'm saying? So
and I think the only counter to that would be if something drastic happened.
Yeah.
Because then you would have the sleeping hawks in the Republican Party, if you will wake up.
Right.
And then they're going to demand that something happen. And if he still wants to not do anything troop-wise, that could be a game changer too.
Right.
But there's a lot of what ifs there. There is one thing, as long as you're...
Oh, I was going to...
you were going to make a point, right?
It was a side thing, and then I have one last thing for this, and then that's it. But, excuse me. Totally a side note. But do you know how I know that my political views have changed since the 2016 election?
How?
In the 2016 election, when I was on the internet, all the ads that I saw were only for Democrats, right? For Hillary, for all this stuff, right? And I've started to see Trump ads when I'm like on YouTube and stuff like that. And I always close them out because I'm like, fuck you. Like, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. But I never, ever saw a Donald Trump ad before. And now I see them, like, not consistently, but maybe like half of the time, like I'll get a Trump ad that he's like, we need money because we're running and blah, blah, blah. And like, it's this little video, and it surprised
I think I might have
me.
Seen that.
Yeah, it surprised me the first couple of times.
Oh God, that's so funny.
Now I'm like, I guess this is what I asked for,
Yep.
So
you did this to yourself, baby.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. So, all these tensions in Iran, they centered around, or at least currently, they centered around Iran stepping back from the
nuclear deal.
Yes, right. From the rules, the situation, whatever the fuck I'm trying to think of, that were set in the deal, right? And I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, but they proposed a really interesting theory, right? That is it possible, do you think, that Iran stepping back on the Iran nuclear deal, right, could be an attempt to negotiate the North Korea way and be aggressive and try and bring Trump to the table, right? Because that's what North Korea did. They're like, fuck you, we're testing missiles, we're doing this shit. And for whatever reason, that got Donald Trump to have a summit, right? I didn't really consider that before, but it's possible, I think, that they saw that and they're like, okay, none of this is working. We've waited over a year for them to try and communicate with us, for them to go back in the deal so that we could come to the table and do whatever. So now let's just press the fuck on. Let's just do what we're going to do. We'll start ramping up. We'll start making some weapons if that's what we have to do. And then we'll get someone to the table. Do you think that's possible? That that's what they're doing?
I don't know. See, I think that most of their maneuvering at this point, I don't think was something they had planned on doing. Yeah. I think pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal gave them an excuse to do it. And I understand the massive flaws built into the deal originally, and I understand why we wanted to pull out from it. But the fallout, I think, in this case, is them having to strictly go on the aggressive. I don't know if I want to call it defensive, but they've taken up a very aggressive stance. Yeah. Even compared to the usual death to America, death to Israel, death to the Jew chants and stuff that we hear. Right.
Because unquestionably there is a lot of that comes out of Iran. Unquestionably,
And it's important to remember that that's not the general populace per se. That is really not the case. No. But I don't know if it's necessarily a power play or if it was planned. I think at this point, the powers that be in Iran are out for self-preservation because they've seen what's happened to Libya. And they know that if this goes the worst way, that their hold on power is gone and their lives are probably forfeit.
Well, and they've already heard John Bolton reference the Libya model when talking about North Korea. Yeah. And if he's even more hawkish on Iran than he is on North Korea, then
and this is not to take into account the fact that Iran is one of the leading sponsors of terror and all this stuff. Like I understand why the tension's there. But just trying to pull back the 30,000 feet and just look at it geopolitically. Yeah. And what they're trying to do to hold on to their power. And I don't know if I can go with the direct kind of North Korea model, like, well, we're going to build nuclear weapons so that we can, sling some fucking BDE around. Yeah. But it could be. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them at this point, especially because now that we kind of gave them that window if they can get to the point there, if they can get to that point before intervention has taken place, they will have secured their spot of power. Because once you have the bomb, you're always you're always in the room now.
Right, and that's
you're
what I'm
always
saying.
in the game.
I don't know that it was planned for a long time, but so maybe just that they saw that that's how it happened. They got. North Korea has got 2 summits, under their belt with the president. In the time that Iran has just been sitting there with their thumb up their ass, waiting for the president to come to the table and re-sign the deal so that they can have a discussion about what to do next. Because that's been Iran's position the whole time, is they don't want to negotiate until the U.S. signs back onto the deal, and then they'll come to the table and they'll have a discussion. But until there's some type of
the removal of the sanctions, which is that's the real crippling part.
Exactly, because after all that happened, especially after Iran, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but especially after Iran pulled out of their end of the deal, the president said that he was willing to sanction any other country that bought oil from Iran, and so now they're especially upset, and so there are speculations that Iran is doing these things with the oil tankers in the Strait to damage the oil market and make people increase the demand for oil so that Iran's oil will be more needed around the world and people will have to do business with them regardless of whatever the U.S. is going to do. So
I'm trying to find this article that I found about that.
Like that. I understand that idea, and I don't think that that's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So on that note too, because the price of oil went up, I think 4% after the attack, and then apparently I found this article was on, what is that? What's the fucking Peacock? NBC? Yeah, NBC News, and it's not an opinion piece. It's directly from their energy columnist. But they're saying that this tanker fire could actually lead to lower gas prices.
Really?
That and, with ties, of course, to the trade war with China, apparently. And so I don't know how they predict this person, Martha White, writing for NBC News, is trying to make the case that even though oil prices on Thursday briefly rose as high as 4% on the news that the 2 vessels had been sabotaged. I don't know why they said that in the Middle East. East Shipping Channel, it retreated from the highs by the end of the trading day, and it was actually back below. And so somehow or other, she makes case by July 4th that parts of the country will see gas prices dip below $2 a gallon.
What?
And I'm going, I don't understand how
less
that passes even Econ 101. But she's trying to make the case that it's possible due to the fact that somehow or other, even though that the supply is dropping, the U.S. has so much fucking oil now, and we've stockpiled so much. Apparently, if we tap into that, prices will go down. I don't quite understand where she's coming from.
I don't expect you to know this, and that's fine if you don't, but are there different qualities of crude oil? Like, does America make better crude oil than Iran or than, Venezuela or whatever? Like, I know that different places have more than others, but I wonder if there's better qualities or if certain countries are better at refining it, so that when you get it, it's better quality. I wonder what the deal is with that, because
from the U.S. consumer point of view, some people have I only buy gas from Shell stations or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, they're just a better company. They make a better product. Chevron has their trademark Techron thing.
Right.
And I don't know.
I wonder.
If you watch the commercials, every, oil company makes the best gas. So I don't know how much truth there is to any of that, to be honest. I wish I kind of did, because then I'd be a more crafty consumer. There was one last point, if you're kind of finished with this, that I wanted to ask you about.
I think the only other thing was that Mike Pompeo laid out 12 points, demands almost, for Iran, for America to go back. And I didn't watch the video, so I don't have the full list of 12 demands, but I'll get it for next week. But I know that on there was that Iran defunded all of the terrorist groups that they're paying for right now, that they stopped funding Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and then there's 50 different paramilitary groups in Iraq that are being funded through Iran, being trained through different, the Israeli Guard or not the Israeli Guard, the Iranian Guard and shit. And so there's
Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah. There's about 50 different paramilitary groups in Iraq that are either being funded or trained by the Iranians or some type of splinter group off of them. So that was one of the demands on Pompeo's list was you have to stop paying for these things before we are going to talk to you about.
And see, that seems pretty standard. It seems like it goes with the territory.
I feel that way as well. That I don't think asking them to stop backing terrorist groups is unfair. I can see how it's 100% hypocritical because we just signed a fucking multi-billion-dollar arms deal with the Saudis, who are doing the exact same shit. We're asking the Iranians to stop fighting a group that we are helping pay for right now. That doesn't look very good. So
it's the nature of the proxy war.
It makes Iran feel like we're trying to fucking quash them. We're trying to gain power over Iran by funding Saudi Arabia, but, or by, also having like people, to kind of help, what's that called? Advisors in the area, from the military. And
our interests run totally contradictory to each other, 100%. And so we've been behind that for a long time.
Yeah. So I see, like I said, how it's 100% hypocritical for us. Like, you need to stop funding these terrorist groups, but I need to finish, I'm waiting for the ink to dry on this fucking weapons deal with the Saudis that I'm not telling Congress about, that I'm just shoving through, and what they do with the weapons, that's, none of my business. That's on them.
And who put Iran in the state of power that it is currently? Who paved the way for that?
I couldn't tell you.
Iran-Contra.
Oh, word. Right. Okay.
The Iranian Revolution. You got to remember, Iran back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, I want to say.
Yeah.
Was like a metropolis, a Western metropolis paradise.
Yeah.
Until the revolution, which we helped start and fund. And it didn't go, it kind of all went pear-shaped after that. Obviously, as we've seen with most of our, Middle Eastern dictatorial leaders that we put into power. I think it wasn't Intercept. It was Deconstructed this week. They had a really, really good conversation about Iran. And I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got
it. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
There was another Deconstructed too.
Andrew Yang.
Last two. Oh, yeah. Andy Yang. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
We can talk about it next if you want.
Let's fucking do it.
Because that's about all I have as far as Iran. Obviously, we'll be tracking this for updates further, and I'll link back to these episodes in the posting on Monday. Link to episode. Sorry, I'm writing it down so that I don't forget. Let's see. Link to episodes. So let's see here. So yeah, we can talk about that real quick if you'd like.
Yeah, let's. If we do.
Because there's only one thing I remember off the top of my head,
just the fact that he was a total dick to him.
He did. He was just trying to get him on anything possible, right?
Yeah.
So
before we get into it real quick, could we do Yang, Kamala Harris's podcast?
Yes.
And then let's hit up the U.S. Congress thing. That way we make sure the two topics we checked in the beginning, we hit those for sure.
Yes. Deal. Okay, so let's talk about Yang real quick, right?
Let's do it.
Deconstructed is a podcast that we've talked about in the past. It's pretty good. It definitely leans pretty far left, but the guy who does it, Mehdi Hassan, is a good reporter. He's a fucking same deal, bulldog, dude. Just a bulldog. Yeah. He will call you on anything if it's even slightly dishonest. He's legit. I like his reporting. I don't agree with his politics most of the time, but I love the way that he does his job, right?
Yeah. He's very entertaining, high quality audio, high quality content.
Yeah. And so we had Andrew Yang on there, who we've talked about in the past, who's a Democratic candidate for president, and who's a big proponent for universal basic income that he calls the freedom dividend, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not universal because it's like opt-in, so not everyone gets it, and it's a whole deal, right? We talked about it in the past. I'll link back to that too. So here, let me even write that down. Link.
I want to say it should be an easy one. I think that's like 2 episodes ago, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, it's not too long ago.
Maybe it was the episode before Haley.
Yeah. So The one thing that I remember off the top of my head is Mehdi Hassan kept trying to equate white supremacy to Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, who you may have guessed because of his last name is Asian, right? And so because he doesn't buy into like the identity politics, intersectionality shit that people are going on, he's willing to call racism regardless of what color your skin is. If you're being racist, you're being racist, things like that, right? So there are, for whatever reason, he has a following of white supremacists that he disavowed like 3 or 4 times on this fucking show, right? Mehdi Hassan kept trying to act like he wasn't saying that when he's like, listen, I've said it already, so I don't have to say it again on the show, but I will. Like, I don't buy into any of this. I'm not in favor of any of that, right? So he was asking him, Mehdi Hassan was asking him, why do you think that these people identify with your message, right? That there's some type of whatever. And Andrew Yang said something to the effect of, well, I think that maybe, they see that like the way of life of a white supremacist is similar to the way of life of an industrial worker, that it's coming to an end. They're seeing the end of like their ability to live in this world. Mehdi Hassan is like, oh, what the fuck do you mean? Like, what could that possibly mean? And I'm like, wait, that seems like a totally legitimate thought. The white supremacist that exists today is seeing that his views and the way that he sees the world is slowly becoming less and less acceptable and less okay. That's a totally legitimate and honest statement that I think is a good thing. I thought it was so weird that he twisted it into like, what are you saying that they need to like continue to live? Like, he didn't say anything like that. Yeah. He's saying that it's possible that they identify with his message because their way of life also is dwindling in America. Didn't say that was a bad thing. He said that is possible to why they're following him. And I think that's totally legitimate.
Yeah.
I thought that was so fucking weird.
And it's because he wanted him to just say like, well, yeah, they have no place on this earth.
Right.
And it's like, I get that. That's in a perfect world, there would be no white supremacists, but at the same time, they are here. And if anything, it's a good thing that their way of life is threatened in a fashion that, they can see their own version of intersectional politics almost in a way come to an end slowly. And so they're worried. So they latch onto his message because it's not one of the typical identity politics.
Right.
And so it's almost like you're talking about apples and oranges here. They're 2 totally separate conversations. Why they might be interested in his message. And like, of course, he disavowed them 1,000 times.
Right.
It's like, it has nothing to do with
the guy's fucking Asian. He's not a white supremacist.
No, man.
Like, I don't even understand why that's something that could even begin to be conflated. I know he's Asian. Like, you can't be a white supremacist if you're Asian. I don't see how that is. I mean, I guess it's like being like a self-hating Jew or something. Like, I guess that could be the case, but seems rare, man. Seems really rare that you find someone of some type of minority ethnicity that is a white supremacist.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right.
It's a fucking Dave Chappelle skit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, I don't, what the fuck?
It's an actual Dave Chappelle skit.
Like, I don't understand.
One of the greatest ones. Clayton Bixby, right?
I think so, yeah.
God, that was
I don't understand how that could be the case. So,
yeah.
Did you have anything written down about that Yang episode?
That was basically the only thing, really. It was just that whole leap that he tried to make for the white supremacist thing was just, it was bullshit. So transparent. And it was just a reach too far. I was like, bro, you can do better than that, man.
Yeah.
You made a more compelling argument for packing the Supreme Court than you did for Andrew Yang supporting white supremacists. I'm sorry, Mehdi, but it's like a thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
And then NPR is doing, the Politics Podcast is doing a series of interviews with...
I got some notes on this one.
Yeah, with different Democratic presidential candidates while they're doing like the Iowa caucuses and whatnot. So the last one was with Kamala Harris, and so we have some notes on
why she's so problematic
on this interview. So the first thing that I have is she was talking about the Hyde Amendment, right? And we talked about the Hyde Amendment when when Haley was in a few weeks ago. She's one of my best friends, and I just called her Hillary.
Wow,
that's asshole.
That's a deep cut too, man.
So we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and the Hyde Amendment is a piece that gets tacked onto every funding bill that says that no federal dollars can be allocated to abortion services in America, right? So that just means that your tax dollars, regardless of your opinion on abortion, won't go directly to abortion services, right? That is not to say...
It's like, can you do me a favor? Actually, grab your phone and put it like more squared up in front of you or something.
Yes.
That feedback, whatever, gets real easily picked up by these mics.
So like, it does not say that money won't go to Planned Parenthood, because not all money that goes to Planned Parenthood, not all parent hoods just do abortion. We talked about that in the past. Yeah. But so the Hyde Amendment just says that no tax dollars will go towards abortion, right? So Kamala Harris said that the Hyde Amendment is an attack on poor women. And her deal is that she wants to make sure that everybody has equal rights to an abortion. If you don't have the money, you should be able to do it, and like all this stuff, right? Yeah. The Hyde Amendment is not an attack on poor women, because government-funded abortion is not an entitlement. It's not something that you're entitled to. It's not a right that you have in America that people who don't agree with your choices have to pay your choices, right? People are not... I wrote down
her actual quote for that.
People are not generally morally opposed to providing food and medical care to people who have no money, right? Yeah. There is a difference to a moral imposition to something you believe is murder and giving people food stamps when they don't have any money, right? Yes. Generally, people are not morally opposed to food stamps, to government assistance of that kind, right? Mm-hmm. There is a huge, half of America has a moral imposition to abortion. You can't equate those two things, right?
Yes.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I know what she's trying to get at.
Yeah.
And that's because the Hyde Amendment is attached essentially to every government funding bill, every budget that's put out, because it's dictating that this is like a rule for this budget. You cannot allocate federal funds to abortion services, period. Right. And so it's attached to every federal budget that every congressperson votes on, or is supposed to vote on.
Since it was introduced.
Yes. But her problem is, in her view, there are people that seek abortions that do not have the money for it.
Right.
And she thinks that, this is what I take from her argument from this, is that we should not, as a federal government, deny those people financial aid to seek healthcare, which is their right. And I understand that argument to it, but it's not the same argument.
And it doesn't hold as much weight because
every state is responsible for handling it.
Exactly. Because
Washington State has financial aid for that. Washington State has financial aid for illegal immigrants to get abortions.
It's not something that's laid out directly in the Constitution. It's not even something that's like an amendment to the Bill of Rights. It's just a Supreme Court case that dictates laws in other states, right? Yeah. Because it's something that's broken down to states' rights. So I don't understand. It's strange that she can even talk about this, because she's not going to be able to place some type of federal decision to get things like this done, because it's not a federal choice. This is something that's dictated by the states.
But that's what she's wanting it to be in her world. She wants federal aid funding to be available for
without
that, and not leaving it up for the states.
Without a supermajority in the Senate and the House, there's no way. I'm not telling you, because I'm telling you guys, without a supermajority in the Senate and in the House, there's no fucking way that she can do that. And I'm telling you that because I think it's important, especially at this stage, if there's going to be so many Democratic candidates, to look at what their campaign promises are and see what are actually realistic. Because if she's going to run, if any of these people are going to run on a stack of promises that they are not going to be able to fulfill without a supermajority, then it's not going to happen, because there's no way that you're getting over 60 Democrats in the Senate and over fucking 300 or whatever in the House. Like it's not happening. Like, it's just not going to happen, because there's not enough of America who leans that way politically and personally.
It's very true. It's not realistic. And I mean, that's not even bringing into the conversation the idea that you're just going to, the federal government's going to usurp more power from the states. Right. And now it's the Fed's problem only. The states just have to deal with it. But that would solve the problem of those, in her eyes, those pesky Republican states that are passing abortion laws and all this. It's a way to deal with that.
Right. So on that same tilt, right, she was talking about how under a Kamala Harris executive, she is going to have the DOJ go after state abortion laws, and they're going to look into all their laws and make sure that they coincide with current laws and federal regulations.
And they're going to make the call how the constitutionality of these abortion laws is. And then they're going to,
She's going to send the DOJ on that mission. So same idea, directly interfering with states' rights. You can't do that. It's impossible. You cannot do that. You can't.
Talk about usurping the power from the judicial branch.
Yeah.
You're going around the judicial branch so that you don't accidentally get a ruling that you don't like.
Right.
Because you know better.
Right.
That is a complete and utter disregard for how the American governance is supposed to work.
And she's using things like the Alabama abortion law as a justification for this, right? For her to not mention, because when she's talking about, she's like, these people are, no one is going to be able to get an abortion. Like this is how it's going to be. To not mention that it is highly unlikely that bill ever goes into effect I believe, is intentionally misleading. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Like I believe, and I have to say I believe because I can't place any type of intention on what she's saying, but I believe it is intentionally misleading because anybody who's listened to us talk about it and trusts what we have to say and that we know our research, that we know what the fuck we're talking about, it's so unlikely that Alabama abortion law ever actually goes into effect. It is unlikely that it ever makes it to the Supreme Court because the way that the laws are written, if it makes it to even the Superior Court, it will get shut down. I feel very, very confident of that. So for her to not mention that, I personally feel is intentionally misleading, and I don't agree.
How long has Kamala Harris been a senator?
Oh, this is her first term.
In governance, period.
Yep.
She was the 32nd Attorney General of California. She was the district attorney for San Francisco before that.
And you know what they're talking about while I was listening to this interview, right? They're like, she gained notoriety, in these hearings where she grilled all these different people. Like, okay, so Kamala Harris's grilling of these people is her asking questions that are half based in truth and not allowing the person to actually answer the question before she moves on and asks another misleading question. What the fuck? Like, if you actually pay attention to what's going on, if you know what she's asking about, you know that she's full of shit. Half the things she's asking about are not true.
Yep.
And that's why she's not letting that person answer the question.
She doesn't want the answer.
Dude, what the fuck?
But that's what a Senate hearing is these days, isn't it?
Yeah. So the one thing, do you have anything else on there besides like a negative thing else that you pulled from that?
You've been hitting all the ones that I wanted to hit so far.
Because the next thing I have is a positive thing, actually, right? Or a half positive, right? Something that
I got another negative.
All right, well, let's hear it before I move on.
When she starts to talk about teachers and education.
Yes.
And she wants essentially the federal government to come to an agreement, pass a bill, whatever it is, so that for every $1 that the state puts towards the teachers' pay, through, of course, because you got to remember, this is all handled through the fucking teachers' unions.
Yep.
And so they'll say, okay, we give you guys $100 million for this year for all your teacher salaries and all this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. She wants to federally match every dollar on the state level, $3 from the federal level.
Yeah.
And essentially that'd be a tripling of a teacher's salary.
Right.
Which is not indeed the way it would work.
Right. So
she's just going to dump, the federal government's going to give 3 times more money to the teachers' unions for them to do whatever the fuck they want with, because they can't dictate how the union spends their money.
Right. So that was the negative half of my point, right?
Oh, perfect.
The positive thing I pulled from it was, I agree that the federal government, I think, should have a larger hand in education in this country, because that's how we're measured globally. We're not measured by state on the global market. We're measured by the United States as a whole, what our education system is like, right?
It's all run through the Department of Education.
So I 100% agree that I think there should be more federal money spent on education. I think that it should be equalized across state. I think that you shouldn't get a vastly better education in one state than you do in another one. Mm-hmm. I think every state you should be getting at least a range of this good of an education. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't get a vastly different education in a different county, in a different district, in a different town, in a different anything, right? I very much believe that.
Yeah, you shouldn't be born into a shitty school district just because of where you were born.
And that's not me saying, oh, there should be private schools. If you have more money, you have the right to buy your kid into another school, right? To a private school. I think that that's your right as having a fuckload of money.
Charter schools and school vouchers.
But I don't think that you should have to get a shitty education because you don't have money. I don't believe in that, right?
Just due to the shitty circumstances that a lot of people are born into, you should not be subject to a life of bullshit because of that.
So I truly believe that I am been a proponent for a long time and will for an incredibly long time, money being taken out of the defense budget and placed into the education budget. A new fucking person in there, because Betsy DeVos is such a shilling piece of shit. A new Secretary of Education to handle this shit so that things can be equalized, right? That's one thing that I got down with what she was saying.
Yes.
I do not, however, agree with the idea of the $3 federal dollars to every one state dollar, because that's a shitload of money. And like you said, you can't allocate after you give that money where it goes. There's no deciding that.
No, because then you're infringing upon the rights of the people to collectively bargain, a.k.a. the teachers union. But I want to agree with you like 50% on this.
Okay.
Because I think I would like there to be more dollars.
Yes.
100%. I'm down with a 3-to-1 ratio. I'm down with that. As long as it, like you said, I'd like that money to come from like the DOD would be fine.
Yes.
But we need to, and this sounds so shitty, and I can't believe I'm going to say this as a small L libertarian. We need to regulate the shit out of how that money is spent.
Yes.
Because it is put into administration
like
and the bloated fucking bullshit that is the 1,000% corrupt teachers unions around the country. And every one of them is different, because depending on what state and all this good stuff. But and without any kind of fucking guidelines that you have to meet that are really fucking strict, you're just going to give them a blank check essentially and say, well, you better do right by your teachers and by the kids. And no, fuck you. So you guys have lost that privilege by underpaying teachers for decades. You should not be able to do that. So
I should clarify. I even have written down here. I do agree with federal money to pay teachers way more and equalize across states, right? So I agree. That is my point. I believe that the money should go to paying teachers. Like, it's not something I think that you should be getting into for the money, you know, but I don't think that people generally will, because if you hate kids, even $100,000 a year is not going to be worth it to deal with fucking third graders all year, right? So, but I think that when you are paying people to shape the youth of America, like, they should be getting paid a lot of money.
A shit ton of money.
A lot of money. Like, I should not be making more money than a teacher. Yeah. That should not be the case.
And I think
I don't have a degree. I didn't go to fucking school. And I went to fucking high school and I did poorly. And then I had shitty jobs and lucked into a good one.
But Don, you're a great teacher. You should be a civic teacher.
That's true. But I should not be making more money than a teacher at really most points in my life. Like, towards then, when I'm making stacks, I'm doing good things, I should, be up there. But like, if you're going to go to school and have a quality education to get a good job being a teacher, you should be getting fucking paid. Like, that's...
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, the really shitty part about trying to talk about that one point is just broadly talking about, like, the state of federally funded and state funded education.
It's bad.
It's so deep of a conversation because there's union talks. There's like a possible restructuring of how the whole system works, because it's obviously been taken advantage of for a long time. Why is it that the most common story I hear from teachers is having to go out and buy fucking school supplies on their own dime?
Right.
That is the most depressing thing I've ever heard.
Well, and I remember when I was in school, not to interrupt you, but I remember when I was in school, like, we got, I'll take another one. We got a list every year, of things that we were supposed to buy to start the school year, which seems normal, like at the time, but I also
buy your school supplies, bro.
Yeah, but I also kind of feel like
season.
But I also kind of feel like that shit should be there, And like I remember we were all asked to buy a box of tissues, right?
Yes.
And bring them in because there weren't tissues at the school.
Because the school cannot afford to buy enough tissues.
Yep. So we were asked to bring boxes of tissues and shit like that were going to be used by everybody all year because there wasn't enough at the school, know? And I always, I don't know, it was normal at the time, but I think that's weird now, that like I'm buying janitorial supplies because there's not enough money in the school budget to have actual like genuine tissues, there.
Yeah. Fucking Belch and Beaver, man.
Yes.
You guys make a quality product here.
Yeah. So I thought that was like really interesting, And
I said something earlier about how like it hurts my libertarian values or whatever to talk about this, but realistically, like I'm a realistic libertarian.
Yeah.
Like I know we're going to have some government run agencies and departments regardless, right? And Department of Education is always going to be one of those. And all I want to do is if the federal government and the state governments combined are going to be working on this and running this thing, let's just hold them to a high standard.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that the job they're doing is a product that we are willing to buy into. Because we directly buy into public education through taxes.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And so this is also why we have PTA. Office. Yeah, this is why we have the PTA, and this is why we have school boards, and there have to be public hearings and all that, because it is public money.
Happens there, yeah.
But how much do we really? And that's the really fucked up part, because you have to get through the board, essentially. You have to get through the superintendent, and all these different things. You have to get through that bureaucracy to try to make any changes.
Yeah,
and it's just so fucking hard to do. But if this is going to be a sector where the government has to make your iPhone, it's the only one on the market. We need to be able to hold them accountable to creating a quality product that we are willing to put our money out there for. And I think it's a good idea, but you need to go a lot further than just, we're just going to give them more money.
Well, and especially the way that let me speak from personal experience for a minute, right? Okay. So I went to Olympic High School, and then not far down the road is Central Kitsap High School, right? Mm-hmm. Super close, 5 minutes from each other. Vastly different schools, right? Central Kitsap High School has way more money that gets pumped into it, right? So I know for a fact, and I'm sure that it's this way now, but I know for a fact it was when I was in school, that like the better the test scores were in the school on average, the more money got sent there, right?
Yeah.
So there were better test scores at Central Kitsap High School, so they always got more money. Mm-hmm. So parents kept sending their kids, they would drive their kids to CK out of the area of the school they should have been, in a lot of cases Olympic High School. They would drive them to CK to go to this school, right? So I think it was our junior year, and Jordan was the library assistant at the time, right? They were taking our new books from Olympic High School, rebranding them and like responding them and shit, and sending them to CK High School for the kids there. Our brand new books, taking them out of Olympic High School, taking our fucking computers, lost a whole computer lab while we were there. Computers got sent to CK.
Got a new one now, baby.
Right. Word. So there's a new one now, but
you're welcome.
But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's shit like that the high school district I was in, that's the area I was in, that's the bus that I took there, right? Grew up with a single parent. She couldn't drive me to a different school because she had to go to work. Didn't have money to go to a private school. So that's the school that I had to go to. Why should I get a shittier education 10 minutes down the road than other kids who live down the fucking block from me? Because my mom can't afford to drive me to school and pick me up every day. Like, why should that be the case? There's no fucking reason for that. Those kids live in the same town. I went to junior high with them. But they're going to a better high school than me because their parents can take them there, or they live in a different side of town, whatever
across the street, so you have a different fucking
and I know why.
Zip code.
Why should that be the case?
Yep.
I don't understand. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So to pivot off of us jointly fixing the entire education system, there was one other thing that I'd forgotten, and she said it right in the beginning of her podcast with NPR. And it was that she said that we need to lift up people in this country that make less than $100,000 a year.
Word.
I'm going, okay. Kamala, I know, or Kamala, Kamala? Yeah. I know that your perspective on the world and like how people live and every day and stuff is you have no concept and are not in touch with that on any sort of level. But $100,000 a year is a shit ton of fucking money,
that's
sweetheart.
Cash,
okay,
bro.
That is a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm down with that. Let's totally do that. But you might want to lower that down to like $60K.
Right.
Maybe. Let's make it a little bit more realistic. The people that are making $100,000 a year, I don't know.
You're doing fine.
You're doing all right, bro. I mean, solid middle class. You know, two house income making 50 G's each. Solid middle class living, dude. You're doing all right.
And at that point, you're not worried about affording a 1-bedroom apartment. Like that's because immediately after that, she's like, we need to lift up people who make less than $100,000.
She said 99% of the counties in the country, a minimum wage worker cannot afford a 1-bedroom apartment. Well, guess what?
Those two things are so different.
They're totally different.
Yeah.
One of them is a little truer than the other because the other one's just a happy thought. But no, I'm totally on board with this whole thing. I don't know if that 99% thing is totally accurate. I'll have to give you the benefit of the doubt.
From what I understand.
But I know, looking at 99% of our county, I will tell you right now that a minimum wage job will not buy you a 1-bedroom apartment.
Right.
You will have to have roommates. But that is a big issue. So I'm glad she said that. But she just touched on it and went on. And then she's...
And let me ask you about something on a personal...
$100,000 a year?
A personal note, right? Because I kind of feel like... Because I heard that and was like... That's wild, right? Like $100,000 is a lot of money. Like that's a shitload of money. So if you're making $100,000, you don't need to be worried about fucking nothing, right?
Nope.
Unless your expenses are out of the fucking off the chain.
If you're making $100,000 a year and you're struggling, that just means you need to adjust your lifestyle a little bit. That's all. That's very different. You're not there out of pure desperation doing what you absolutely need to. You're obviously not.
I was thinking, right? And I kind of feel like if you work a full-time job, you should be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. Even if it's super small, even if it's really basic, it's, not shitty because you should have a quality apartment. But even if it's if it's the size of this room, that it's a studio apartment, you have a 1-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and then a living room with a kitchen and like what the fuck ever, right? I think that's totally legitimate. I think if you're working part-time, you should probably have to have a roommate because you're not working full time. You're doing other shit. You know what I'm saying? Like monetary wise, you shouldn't be making so much that I only work 20 hours a week, but I still got this apartment and I'm fucking doing just fine. Right. Yeah. But I feel like if you're working full time, you definitely should have that. Like however much money it has to be, the minimum wage should be such that if you're working full time, you should be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment to yourself. Like I feel very stern about that. That feels right to me. That if that's what you're doing, because that's 40 hours a week, there's not a lot of time to do other shit, if you're working 40 hours a week.
I remember when I worked 40 hours a week.
And that's a whole other deal.
But that's still a lot of time.
Right.
You're working 9 to 5.
Right.
That's your whole fucking day, dude.
That's a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? So
to be able to not have a place to go home to for those fucking 4 or 5 hours you have free in your day.
But you don't need to make $100,000 a year at your full-time job to be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment.
No, there's a vast divide there.
Yeah.
You need to make...
Because if I'm with the amount of money I make now without disclosing it, if I was single and lived by myself, I could have an apartment and I would be totally fine.
Yeah.
But with a wife and a child, I'm lucky that I live where I live. It's awesome. It's a great situation. You know what I'm saying?
And when a mortgage is less than a 1-bedroom apartment rent, we know there's a problem.
Right.
And so there obviously is a massive problem somewhere.
I bought a small home because it's cheaper than, fucking living in an apartment.
Yes.
That does not make any sense.
It is almost half the price in some cases, depending on what you find. Housing market around here is fucked right now.
My mom's shitty apartment is like $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
Like for a shitty apartment.
That'll buy you a livable apartment.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That it's livable, but it's not. I don't want to live there. And my mom doesn't like living there. But that's like, It's crazy, especially in this area. The housing prices and the rent prices are insane. To live at the nice apartments, like the Olympic Village ones over by fucking like on Fairgrounds and shit, those ones are like $1,500-$1,600 a month for like a good apartment. You know, that's fucking crazy.
And that's like old good. That's not like new.
Right. Those have been there the whole time that I've been like a grown enough to remember. Those have been there. So they're at least 15 years old, at the minimum, probably closer to 25.
When you're driving, you know where Sonic's at, right?
Yes.
And so at Sonic, go through the light going down Viking Way.
Yes.
There's that brand new condominium apartment complex. You're talking like $1,800 for one bedroom.
That's absurd. That is more. We had a beautiful split level home that was 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, fucking awesome, huge backyard, huge front yard. Our mortgage was less money than that.
Yeah.
And the home that I grew up in and went to school in, our mortgage was less than $1,800 a month. And that was like bought during the housing crisis when everyone was getting fucked in their homes. And the mortgage was less than that. That's fucking insane.
Yep.
That is fucking insane.
That is crazy. So she makes valid points. She's maybe not the best conduit for them to flow, but that's all right. She's not really going to get anywhere anyways.
It's weird.
The poll numbers are crazy right now.
People are like, I want more experience in a politician. I'm going to vote Kamala Harris.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't. You know, she's been doing this for like 3 years, right? Like, you know that she just got here. Like, she talks really good because she's been a lawyer for fucking like 20 years. But she's only been here for just a minute. Like,
not just a lawyer.
She sits on the end of the panel for a reason, right next to Cory Booker, because he's just, you know, more veteran than her. Like, she's on the end for a reason, man. She's fucking new.
Yep.
Like, she's still a fucking freshman senator on this shit. Like,
which there is something to be said about that. We had this discussion with Morgan, right? There is something to be said about freshman politicians not being afraid
new ideas
to voice their ideas against the inevitable bureaucracy.
Yes.
And that's fine, but it's unrealistic. I was saying, I think I figured out, just loosen this top one a little bit and turn it like perpendicular to the table. Big words.
Like
perpendicular.
This?
Other way. Like face it towards me. There you go.
Parallel to the table.
Parallel, not perpendicular. See, I said perpendicular and you went perpendicular. I meant parallel.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Of course, because I'm listening to what you say.
Exactly.
I'm trying to follow directions here.
I exist to complicate your life, Donovan.
No,
Come
this
on now.
is good. So I think that's all I had as far as that Kamala Harris. Oh, one last thing. Man. This is just a little.
She's just so full of.
This is just a personal thing, right? So at the end, they always do the, you know, can't let it go, right? That's NPR's. So they asked her what her guilty pleasure was, and she's like, my guilty pleasure is cooking. I love cooking. I love cooking. I love cooking. Bitch, cooking is not a guilty pleasure. A guilty pleasure is something that you do that is socially acceptable, but you probably shouldn't be doing. You know what I'm saying? I like to eat mini Oreos in a cup like cereal. That's a guilty pleasure. It's socially acceptable because because the same thing. You're like, damn, that sounds fucking good. Super bad for me. Probably shouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying?
It's a guilty pleasure. There's a reason you feel guilt.
And there's a difference between like a sexual kink or something, you know, and a guilty pleasure. And she went on like the other end of like, that's just a thing you like to do. Like, that's
I like to pretend that I'm Martha Stewart. And I will say,
that's just a thing you like to do.
I've seen like some of the stuff she puts out. And I don't know how it tastes, but just judging from the what she does and like the preparation of it, she knows what the fuck she's doing in that kitchen.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah. She looks like,
that's what's up.
She's a mean cook, man. And no shade. So maybe that's not something that's a guilty pleasure. That's all.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless you're doing that shit when you should be doing your job, then maybe you could feel guilt about it, and that's my guilty pleasure. I like to slack on my job because I like to cook every night or something.
She's like I'm carrying iPads around trying to read recipes to make for my friends. That's not a guilty pleasure. That's just a thing you like to do. Just, I don't know, you know? If I wish that one of these people would just be like, dude, you know, every couple of weeks, I blast a Fatty J, and that's my guilty pleasure. It's like just every couple of weeks, just every once in a while, I just need a fucking toke, or you know, and I'm good.
Something that's like genuine, at least. Like, dude, I got a problem with, like, as soon as I can, I sit down, me and my husband, and we binge watch the shit out of some fucking crappy TV show on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that realistic shit. Her talking about cooking is just going, really? You're just so perfect that your guiltiest pleasure is cooking?
Yeah.
I get it. But
you're so fucking cool.
Be more real, bro.
Yeah. No,
that's all I'm asking.
I didn't like that at all.
That's okay. She's not going to go
That's just a personal quirk. So what was the last thing that you wanted to make sure that we got to? Contempt. Congress, right? So
the U.S. Congress prepares to go to court over civil indictments.
Yes. So on the 12th, the House Oversight Committee voted to hold Attorney General Bill Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in contempt for not turning over documents related to the citizenship question on the 2020 census.
Shame.
So, like, just a few hours before this vote happened, and this has been sitting around for a while, right?
Yeah.
When a few weeks ago they voted and they talked about holding Bill Barr in contempt of Congress for not releasing the underlying evidence from the Mueller report, right? Mm-hmm. Which it is important to note has since been turned over, or at least part of it has been turned over. 17,000 documents already turned over. I
think Jerry Nadler said something to that effect the other day.
Yeah.
When he was complaining about not getting documents for other things.
Yes.
That is outside the Mueller report.
And that's what the problem is. Jerry Nadler and then also
Chairman
Cunningham. Yeah. In the
White House's
in the Oversight Committee.
Oversight.
Yeah. No. White House is a senator, and that is in the Judiciary Committee for the Senate. This is in the Oversight Committee in the House. And that's Elijah Cunningham.
Yes. See, there's too many rock stars, bro.
Yeah. And he was the one that was more vocal about the documents with Jeremy Nadler. Mm-hmm. They got these documents and they're like, oh, but most of these are already public privilege. You know, they've seen them. A lot of them are like print-offs from the internet and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know. That's so... it's a whole deal, right?
It's all classified and stuff, so we don't actually know what we're arguing over.
So hours before the Oversight Committee met to hold Bill Barr and ex-Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in contempt, there was a notice from the DOJ that the president was invoking executive privilege on these documents and on the subpoenas, and they're like, you don't need to say shit, we don't need to give you anything, we're keeping this all, right?
And this is to that alleged email talking about the census question of citizenship and being key for Republican favoring of redistricting or something like that. Right.
Because I don't remember where they said that it came from originally, but the email came out that it came from Wilbur Ross instead. And he was the one that originally planted the idea of the census question having to do with citizenship, right? So they voted in favor of holding Bill Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in contempt of Congress, right? The weird thing, yes.
I'm saying because it's not exactly contempt of Congress, though.
No.
It's not a criminal situation. This is a civil. Yeah. Right. So now they're able now to sue them in civil court for these documents. Mm-hmm. And it's like the justification of their subpoena power in a way.
Right. And that's because, and they have to do it in civil court because when they were talking about it originally, I believe it was in the Senate, when they were first talking about holding Bill Barr in contempt of Congress, they're like, oh shit, if we do that, we're actually just recommending charges to the Department of Justice because those are the people who pursue these charges. Bill Barr leads the Department of Justice. He's not going to pursue charges against himself for contempt of Congress. This was a waste of our fucking time.
So we got to go the civil route so we can take it to court.
Exactly. And because that's the only thing that's been working for them is taking things to the court to try and enforce their subpoena powers. Because anytime they talk about subpoenas other than that, the president says, fuck you. That person's not coming in. Yeah. You know? So,
and I think this is an apt look at how this balance of power and these checks on power work.
Made to work, yeah.
And there's a reason that you can't do that because, how the hell is the Department of Justice supposed to sue themselves for because so you have to have the third branch come in to mediate the dispute between the two other branches.
Exactly, because it would even be a conflict of interest to try and have the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein pursue charges against his boss, the Attorney General. You know, that you can't find a single person in that department who's going to be able to pursue charges against Bill Barr.
It does not make sense.
So you have to go the civil route. That's the only thing that's working, especially when they meet this problem of executive privilege on all these documents, on all these testimonies, right? So it's
a lot.
Yeah. And especially if, like we talked about last week, if they're not looking to go down the route of impeachment, this is the only way they can continue to go, right?
Yep.
And another reason, I've had it written down for a couple weeks, but another reason that...
I love the stack of paper notes. It's just getting thicker.
Yeah. I'm thinning them out slowly.
Because at least we were able to check off China last week, man.
Right,
It's been like
right.
a 6-month buildup.
I wrote it down a couple weeks ago that Nancy Pelosi is concerned that even if they do impeach President Trump, that he won't peacefully transition power. And even if there's an election that's close, she's concerned that he won't peacefully transition power, right? Which is stupid, but there was some concern when the 2016 election happened that if he lost, he wouldn't concede peacefully because he said that. He said that he was going to try and pursue, recounts and all that shit if he won by a small margin or whatever.
Totally different thing than not giving up power peacefully. Just we saw that with the W. Gore election. It just never seemed to end.
And so that's her justification, right? Is that we've already heard him talk about this. We've seen this happen before, that he said he won't do it. And so, we don't know if there's a close election that he'll even do it. And we don't know if we impeach him that he'll actually, that he'll resign or anything, because certainly if they were able to get it done in the House, and it got pushed over to the Senate, then at least you have some real heat under the president's ass. They're like, we recognized it. Like, it's here.
Yep.
You've been impeached in the House. Like, it's now to the Senate for them to do their investigations, which they wouldn't do, But he then is faced with the decision that Richard Nixon was to resign, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, I think that there's a serious question whether or not he would do that,
Probably not.
But
especially since they're so out for blood in this case. The fact that Nancy Pelosi said last week or the week before that she would like to see Donald Trump in prison.
Right.
And I'm going, wait.
Well, and Kamala Harris has said the same thing, all these candidates are talking about the 10, verified instances of obstruction of justice that were laid out in the Mueller report. And like I said, from what I understand, there is legal standing that if he was a regular citizen to charge him with obstruction of justice. It's only because he's a president that it's like real murky waters, but
so
no one is willing
to
try and do it. Right. And that's
just do it. If you know that you can do it, because if you don't know that you can do it, quit fucking talking about it.
And that's why I'm in favor of the impeachment inquiry that we were talking about last week, that I don't see any problem with that at all.
Grow some stones.
Right.
Stand up for what you believe in if you actually believe in it.
It's a half a step in that direction, right?
Yep.
It's not a full step to impeachment. It's a half a step. Listen, let's just start looking. If we find some shit that we think we're going to find here, then we will press on with impeachment.
Yep.
But then that's just going to give you more... I feel like an impeachment inquiry just reinforces the subpoena power that you're trying to do right now. That just gives you just more oomph. You know what I'm saying?
Otherwise,
exactly.
What are you conducting these investigations for? If you are not willing to pursue impeachment, what the fuck are you trying to do?
Nothing but partisan services. That's all that this is, and that's all that it's. That's what it's able to be argued that it is.
How can it do anything but help them in the civil process?
Right.
If they start to at least open the inquiry into impeachment.
Right.
Because then it shows the court that you are serious about this. You believe this is happening. This is not just political hackery.
Right.
But I haven't seen anybody willing to step up to the plate. And they have, the House is where it begins. It can begin in the Senate, but it won't. So the House is where it needs to begin because they have the numbers to do that. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. She can put it to the floor. But she won't do it.
Right.
Don't ask. It's
the number, like we said, the numbers aren't there. And that's
because it's bad politics.
Yeah, the numbers aren't there.
It's bad politics. It's a too risky election. They don't want to try to do what they, quote unquote, feel is right.
Yeah.
Because they're worried about the next election and losing the impeachment hearing.
Right.
If you are, I've already said it. If you truly believe it, you need to do it anyways, even if you're going to lose.
Be about it, dog.
Stand up straight.
Yep.
With your chest out.
We'll just
ready to take on the world.
Yep. That's it. That's all I have as far as contempt here. So
we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, we got a little bit more time here. So we can talk about, let's see, I have Flint Water here. I have Michael Flynn and
I stumbled
Gates?
upon something else
What
that
you
I
got?
can school you on. And we
What's
can
up?
just talk about it because I know we haven't yet. Jordan Peterson
Yes.
is
The man, the myth, the legend.
indeed. He is a part of, and I don't know how much he's driving this thing, but this new social media platform.
Signed up for the beta the other day.
Boom. Good call. I think I signed up on it with 3 different email addresses.
It's called like We Think, I think.
It is
like that.
called
Free Think, I think.
ThinkSpot.
That's what it is.
ThinkSpot.com. And it is in beta right now, but it is supposed to be it's going to be a social media platform where the only censoring that will be done is on content that violates U.S. law. So this week, as he made the announcement, and I don't know how this exactly worked out, but the announcement actually came on the Joe Rogan podcast, like on an aside note from somebody that was a guest on there. And so the quote is, on Twitter, JBP tweets out, per the Joe Rogan podcast this week, I'm back in a new platform called ThinkSpot, currently in beta. Get on the wait list here, and he gives the link to it. So I don't know if somebody actually stepped on somebody's toes for the rollout.
Yeah.
But, and I'm trying to remember who was on. So this is June 10th. Who was on this week? Which episodes came out?
I'm not sure.
I'll have to go
Do you want
back
me to
and
look 'em
check
up real
again.
quick?
But I remember hearing it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's that thing that they're doing."
See.
Because there was a few people on there this week, but I don't exactly totally remember. But either way, it's coming out, and so I just for shits and giggles, I wanted
David
to see.
Pakman was on the 5th,
Okay,
and he is a television and radio host, political commentator, and YouTube personality.
it's very annoying.
And then Naval Ravikant was on
Yeah.
the 4th, Eddie Bravo on the 4th, and then Greg Fitzsimmons was on May 31st. So
Okay, yeah, it was one of those guys that they had. I think it was the political commentator guy. He's kind of one of those progressives that's not super into the. He's like a farther to the left than Dave Rubin, progressive. He's kind of a wannabe Brett Weinstein type of progressive, right? But young guy, political host and stuff. He's probably the one that talked about it a little bit. But it's coming out. It's officially in beta. And I decided to Google it to see what the journalistic response was. And
God
we'll just
damn.
say hit piece after hit piece after hit piece.
Really?
After hit piece. Of course, the Daily Wire wrote a nice article about it. And then surprisingly, and it's not the one. Oh, the Guardian. Yeah, they called him like an alt-right supporter and all this good stuff.
I think that's so weird.
And my other one didn't show up, but the Washington Examiner was the other positive piece, and it was an opinion piece in the Washington Examiner. And I want to say, I'm not remembering offhand, but I think the Washington Examiner is a pretty conservative paper, if I remember right. So it wasn't surprising to me there, but everybody, partisan lines, whether or not it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. But it's something to really look forward to, I think. There's Sargon of Akkad apparently is one of the Carl Benjamin. You remember him?
Yeah.
He's one of the people that's leading. He's one of the first people, I think,
I kind of liked him,
He's really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of where I really started to learn about like classical liberalism was when I heard his interview on Dave Rubin, like the OG one. And I was like, I think that I kind of fuck with that, I think I like that idea. He's kind of extreme sometimes.
Yeah.
But I like his like base ideas,
And he comes from a totally different political leaning, like a whole different compass being from the UK.
EU. Yeah. Exactly.
And so his version of liberalism is a little different than ours and so on and so forth. But it's something really interesting if you're interested in, good old fashioned free-spirited, free speech conversation. And no fucking punches pulled or anything.
Do you know
that's going to be the spot to go? I think it's going to be a subscription service, though.
Really?
which
I'm
totally okay with.
Maybe a nominal fee. I don't know. It depends. I would have to look at it and test it out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not willing to pay for Twitter or anything like that.
Cheap ass.
And I'd be interested to see how it gets used. You know what I'm saying? If the only thing that's being banned are things that are illegal in the United States, I'm interested to see the crowd that goes and uses it. You know,
and I think if you put up
because it obviously because it obviously has the potential to, not to interrupt you, it obviously has the potential to turn into whatever those weird offshoots of Twitter and shit like that are, 4chan and like 5chan, those weird fucking things that people go on.
Offshoots of Reddit.
Right. But well, no. There's ones for Twitter too that I just can't remember the name of. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
I remember somebody on Joe Rogan was talking about a social platform they had. Yeah. It was like a Twitter, Instagram mix.
Exactly. And
then
it wasn't
there's going anywhere.
But I know, and then there's also like 4chan or about 5chan is apparently a fucking thing. Like all these weird offshoots that have way less restriction that people share more extremist shit on, you know? Yeah. So it obviously has the potential to go there. And that's, I'm sure, how it's being made out in all of these fucking super left-wing articles. Is that,
there's going to be a cesspool of fucking hate.
For white supremacy and nationalism. And that's... Yeah. Nationalism is a whole nother conversation that it still confuses me today to hear people talking about nationalism. You know what I'm saying? And
nationalism
like,
isn't
and conflating it
a bad
with
thing.
Yeah. But
it's called patriotism.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's another word for it.
So I am interested to see how that turns out.
So there's
what I'm saying,
the idea of a paywall.
Yeah.
Right. That might be a thing. And I am somebody that's totally willing.
You are.
2019 to put my money where my mouth is, and I will support the shit out of them on that platform, especially because I would love to get on that platform, and it's an invite only situation.
I think if I feel like I'm gaining something from it, then I'm willing to pay money for it, you know? But like Tell Him Steve Dave is the only Patreon that I subscribe to that I pay money to because I get enormous amounts of enjoyment out of listening to Tell Him Steve Dave. You know, like I like listening to Dave Rubin and all that shit, but I don't listen to it frequently enough, or I feel like gain enough from it to pay him money. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to listen to the ads that he does and use that as payment for getting that, but I don't feel the need to pay you out of my pocket every month for what you're doing. Yeah. So I don't agree with you often enough.
Because if we're rolling the ad model, which most places do, we generally accept that as our payment and move on. Right. Whereas if I have a weird kind of relationship with this maybe, and I think it's just because I'm getting older. Yeah. But if I watch somebody religiously, if I listen to somebody religiously, if I utilize something that I want to support them in, right, I will dole up. And there was a period when I was spending about $100 a month on various creators on Patreon, spread out. That's $5 here, $10 here, $5 here. I want to get on that tier, so I'm going to spend $15, right? But that, to me, I square that away with, no, I enjoy what these people do, and I understand how much time and effort goes into to produce something of middle quality alone, and they're doing big things, and they have staff, small staffs, but they have to pay for those. I want to do my part in supporting that small business and to supporting that creator because that's what I want people to do to us, and I think I would be a massive hypocrite if I was not able to put my money where my mouth was and do that. It's a reason why I pay for Hulu, I pay for fucking Netflix, I pay for Amazon Prime, I pay for fucking HBO Now. Yeah. I pay for all these things, even though I don't think you can do it these days, but it used to be you could just get your friend's fucking password and shit and just use it. But I'm totally okay with paying for it because I utilize those services and I want to be able to provide the end creator with my dollar so they can keep doing that. Right. And I think that's just, I used to be the same way. I ain't listening to it if it's not for free. I'm not watching that shit if it's not for free because I'm not paying you my fucking money. Now I have a different, view of it.
I think that I'd be more willing to subscribe to the Daily Wire or something than to, like I said, Dave Rubin, because Ben Shapiro I'm listening to every day that I'm getting news from Ben Shapiro. You know what I'm saying? And so,
you see, Dave Rubin, I have the ad model in my mind.
And
that's why I listen to it religiously.
Right. And that's why I pay for for, like I get a New York Times subscription, so I can read as many articles as I want online. Like, I'm willing to pay for things like that because there's information I'm drawing from it regularly.
Yeah.
And I don't pay for Ben Shapiro because he does a free episode, and the other things I don't need to listen to his extra 2 hours or anything, because I feel like I get enough from his 1 hour.
A lot of it is repeat.
Right.
A lot of it is repeat.
And because he's doing it every day, 3 hours is a long time. I imagine when we're going every day, we'll do about an hour every day. You know what I'm saying? Because there's,
God damn it, I gotta pee. I've been holding it for a while.
We can take a break.
Should we take a break? We haven't taken a break
we're
forever.
At the end of this. Well, so what you can do, you can slide in the little ad read right here. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it has to be.
First week's got to be at the front end.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
next week, we can put it anywhere we fucking want.
Well, there we go. After that, you can play a nice undertone of our theme song. Yep, exactly. Yeah,
that's nowhere near how our theme song works.
Not at all. We're
like 80s sex theme.
We're gonna hit a break real quick. We're both gonna go pee, and we will be right back to finish up a couple more topics, sports, and we're gonna get the fuck out of here. Peace.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause that's what's that? Let's get ready.
You should do it again.
I can work one up.
I don't think so.
That was a good one.
That was a healthy belch.
Yeah.
So on that note, welcome back to the Salt and Street Podcast, everybody.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about next, man? Just finish up our JBP. We hit Kamala Harris.
Let's talk about the Flint Water Crisis.
All right.
Let's talk about Flint Water, right? Because I think this is something that is discussed, semi-inaccurately, fairly regularly, right?
Okay. If it's discussed at all anymore.
Right. From what it is mentioned offhandedly frequently, I guess I should say, right? So what was it just yesterday, right? That in Flint, Michigan, all the charges were dropped except for the people who were already in jail. There was 8 more sets of charges that were dropped against different county and state workers that had part in the fucking of the people of Flint, Michigan in regards to the water, right?
Like literal.
Yes.
Like this is, you remember this shit. This was a while ago, but nightmarish conditions where you turn the tap on, there's so much gas and shit flying through there. You could light a match on it. It would spit fire. I mean,
12 children died of Legionnaire's disease from straight fucking lead poisoning in the pipes, right?
I mean, this is yellowish. It's so yellow, it's almost orange.
In 2014, disgusting. The local government of Flint decided to switch the water to a new source, and the lead going on with the pipes from that source just fucking poisoned everybody, right? Yeah. So now, right, as it sits now, from what I understand, the water source has been switched back, right? So it's back to the original source, and home water in the vast majority of Flint tests at above safe drinking levels, right? However, the public lines that go to businesses sometimes and shit like that are not clear, and they're still being tested, and they're leaching into other people's water, and that's how they can still be tested dirty with lead, right? But the residential pipes are fixed. It's the leaching of the lead from other pipes that are close to the residential pipes that are leaving the trace amounts of lead in there, right? And the people obviously don't trust the government that exists there because they've already been fucked.
For great reason.
And they're still being told to use the government water filters that they were given, right? So of course they don't think that the water is clean because they're still being told to use the filters, right? So, like I said, it's mentioned offhandedly consistently. Flint still doesn't have clean drinking water. The people of Flint still don't have clean drinking water, right? It happens all the time. People mention it offhandedly. They're just saying it things. So it's
like they'll tie it on the end of some fucking activist-y line or whatever. And the people of Flint still don't have drinking water that's clean.
2 years ago at the correspondence dinner, Michelle Wolf, she did her whole thing, grilled everybody to all that shit, and then she ended, Flint still doesn't have clean water. That's how she ended her deal. Right?
I remember that.
I was listening to the fucking Dax Shepard podcast just not that long ago, and they offhandedly mentioned, and those people still don't have clean water, And it's so So it's like a half truth, right? And that's, I'm not trying to I'm not saying all these people are bitching about fucking whatever. Like we have really great water in Washington State, at least in this area particularly. We are super lucky with excellent fucking drinking water.
So you want public water at your place?
Yeah.
Oh, word. I'm on a well system, baby.
Oh, and it's super easy to dig a fucking well on your property. Like you just
sometimes.
In most places here. Yeah.
It's easy to drill one.
Yes.
Sometimes your neighbor, you'll have to drill down like 50 feet. Sweet.
Yeah.
So, and then you try to dig a well on your lot. That's like, well, we're at 150, bro, and we haven't hit shit.
Right.
So, you sure you want to shell out another like 20 grand for this?
Generally, it's pretty easy to find a well on most properties here in Washington.
Yeah. In some places, you can't do that at all.
Right.
You have to rely on public water.
But in a lot of places, you buy a big chunk of land. You're like, all right, well, let's fucking dig a well somewhere.
Let's do it, baby.
We'll find one,
Let's get the shovel and the pickaxes, baby.
Right. Which is pretty rad. But no, not that.
Nobody does
being
that
able
anymore,
to find wells. Is rad, is what I'm saying. So, so like I said, it's a half truth. I don't think it's an intentional lie, but it's a half truth because most of the residential drinking water in Flint is testing at safe levels. Like I said, it's a leaching from the public pipes and from all that other shit that is leaving the trace amounts of lead.
Yeah.
And people being told to continue to use their filters, that's making them not trust the fact that their water is clean.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt that it was greed or whatever on the government side, that led them to this and that poisoned these people and led to the death of those children.
Yeah, it was like the perfect combination of like bureaucratic laziness and just like, well, we're not going to deal with this, and like total legit corruptness.
Right, because there wasn't even like there wasn't like kickbacks, right? Like it was just like, well, let's cut from the fucking budget. We'll just go here. We know that that the pipes will need to be redone, but
it'll be fine.
We just won't worry about it. Like, so because it's not even, like I said, it's not even like there was people that received kickbacks from another company for switching the water. Like it was just shittiness and laziness.
Like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
You had no incentive other than just being a kind of a generally shitty human. But the big news, because even though that is a thing, and like you said, it is getting better, which is good. But there's an interesting thing going on with the legal case, and that is that earlier this week, prosecutors dismissed all charges in the Flint Water investigation. And so I saw that headline, and I was like, wait, pause button. What the fuck's going on? They're going to get out of this? So I started to read into it, and I started to look into it, and it's not exact. It's kind of a clickbait headline.
Yes.
It is true that this did happen, but it's kind of in what we call a judicial reset. And so they're going to be re-looking at the case. They're going to come right back to it due to...
There's a new attorney general and a new lead prosecutor or district attorney, that's what it is. A new district attorney and a new attorney general that are in Flint. And so they dropped the charges so they can reconfigure their case and then recharge everybody, which I guess is kind of weird. And we could like to do that completely, to drop it and then reissue new charges. But that's what they felt was what's best to do. So these people are not getting off. They're not, it's not like nothing is happening. It's just that for now, until they decide what they're going to charge these people with. I know one person, Nick Lyon, the former director of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Baller name, by the way.
Yeah. He was facing charges of involuntary manslaughter in regards to the Flint Water Crisis. And so the charges against him were dropped, but I'm sure that something else will be... I'm sure he'll be charged again with something else, So
the office, so this is coming from Slate. So, I mean, it is what it is, but they're one of the few people that are actually reporting on it. And they said that the office, the Attorney General's office of Michigan, said that the decision arose from problems with the investigation and that several years after the charges were filed, it may reopen the case again, some or all of the previous with some of the all or previous defendants at a later time. So it sounds like they're just going to regroup, figure out how we're going to best take this case forward, and then represent.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally legit because there was never any kind of ruling on this particular part of the investigation, or this particular case, which I think is kind of a generally normal judicial kind of, prosecutorial.
Well, it's taken a lot of time, excuse me, like you said, because of all the bureaucracy that was tied up in it. It's taken a really long time to try and get all the evidence to tie everything together in this case, from what I understand. So it's, it doesn't seem weird to me that it's taken this long.
No. Yeah. Christ, back to 2014.
I know that in the articles I read, the local reaction is not good. People are not happy at even the idea of the charges being dropped when people have died, right? It's because it's not like people just died. It's children died. And there's a special...
You fucked up a lot of people's entire lives. Generations.
And there's a special spot that most people have for children and like animals and stuff like that. That when something, when you've done something to harm children, it's an extra crime that you've committed because you've done something to someone who has no control really over their circumstances, And so it's extra dark that it's children that have died, So the idea that we know how, what a small percentage of America chooses to truly inform themselves on everything, So I'm sure the majority of Flint and the majority of the surrounding area and the majority of America, is assuming that these people just got off and, there goes, a bunch of more people who are getting off fucking corporate greed and literally killing people and nothing is going to happen, So I think that partially it's on the responsibility of the media for having reported it this way,
it's because Trump is the news now.
Exactly.
I mean, this was back in Obama era because it first began in 2014 and then in October 15, they switched back to the Detroit water system, which led to the lead levels now becoming within legally safe ranges. And so this is years old at this point. And these people have been bereft of any kind of reimbursement or any kind of justice, we'll say, since
reparations.
2014.
Is that what you're getting at?
No. No, I don't say that word anymore. It's like bad. Fucking reparations.
I'm sure there's at least one person who just, Donovan. Poor taste. Poor taste, sir.
And that's why you come to Salt of the Streets,
That's
baby.
why you're here.
But, I mean, there's not much more to it. It's just, there's shit going on. It's still not resolved. But keep it in mind, man. Just keep it in mind. Shit like this is still happening. It's a long, slow process. Yeah. So I got at least 2 more that I can hit. 3 more technically, but
words. Well, the one that I really want to talk about is AOC.
Oh, what's up with AOC?
Right. Well, I sent you that article last week.
Shit.
That she. Oh no, it's okay. That she wants.
Oh, yes. She wants the pay raise.
Yes. She wants a pay raise of, let's see, it's like $5,200 or something like that. $4,500. She said it's like not even like a pay raise.
Is it a monthly or is that?
No, that would be yearly, right? Automatic cost of living increases were so let's clarify first. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's a representative from New York State, she has said that she wants what she's calling cost of living increases in the pay for congressmen, right? For representatives, for senators, for people who work in Congress.
Yo,
right?
Cost of living, bro. It's hard out here for a player.
Right. So automatic cost of living increases were suspended in 2010, and pay hasn't been raised since 2009 when the members of Congress received a 2.8% increase in their salaries, right?
Too much for you.
So let's see. If lawmakers had received those annual pay raises, their salaries would currently be around $210,000. And let's see what it is right now. The average salary for senators and representatives is $174,000. There's some people who get paid more if you're the leader of a committee. If you're like Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, she gets $223,500 a year, right? She's the Speaker of the House. It's whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the average is $174,000, which is a fucking pretty good amount of money
for public service.
Yes.
Interesting.
So she
almost
is
like there's a financial incentive into becoming a politician.
So she's saying that she's looking for a cost of increase raise because it would then incentivize politicians, congressmen to not take dark money from lobbyists, from people who have special interests. That's part of her argument, is that then we have less reason to be taking money from outside sources if we have more money ourselves.
Yeah. I mean,
so I tweeted.
It's a problem.
Nobody said anything, obviously, because no one gives a shit. But I tweeted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez this week, and I said, so you want me to pay you more money to incentivize you to be an honest politician, is what you're saying to me. Because why should I expect you to just not be taking... Why do I need to pay you more money to not be a shill?
And the swamp takes
what the fuck? I don't... You were a bartender 5 fucking minutes ago, and now you want more money. You're making at least over $100,000 a year. No question, right? At least $100,000 a year. You want more money first fucking term, so you have incentive to not take dark money. So why should I assume that you have not already been approached and are not already tempted to shill for some type of other cause? Because you're asking for more money.
Yeah. Maybe you think she'd have a little bit more integrity.
So you're thinking about shilling already.
Alone?
Yep.
Already? Just because $174,000 a year, probably before tax, is not enough for you. So you have to feel like you need more incentive to maintain your integrity as an honest human being and not accept fucking shill money?
So this is what she said, right? Someone tweeted, Matt Stoller, who I don't know who that is like, this is just stupid. You get what you pay for, and if you cut the pay of public servants for a decade, you get bribery and corruption. So she quoted that, and she said, yep, voting against cost of living increases for members of Congress may sound nice, but doing so only increases pressure on them to keep dark money loopholes open. This makes campaign finance reform harder. All workers deserve cost of living increases, including minimum wage workers. So let me ask you where the comparison is between a minimum wage worker and someone who makes $150,000.
I feel like somebody that was just a bartender,
super weird,
would probably have a pretty good perspective on what it feels like to be a minimum wage worker who probably mostly just works for under minimum wage, but mostly makes tips. It up in tips. Yep. So I don't know. Maybe we should ask AOC what her finances look like, but I don't think that's coming, because since the day she started to fucking run her campaign, she's done nothing but be a corrupt fucking politician. Yeah. Her campaign manager is one of the most corrupt fucks who's been investigated more than a few times at this point, and who has siphoned millions of dollars away from her beloved fucking supporters.
He's done the same thing, not to interrupt you, but just to explain.
Fucking piece of shit.
He's done the same thing, essentially, that Michael Cohen did to pay Stormy Daniels.
Yes.
He set up an LLC to draw campaign funds out so that he can draw a paycheck from this LLC that they've set up. That's totally legitimate. That's totally legitimate. That is actually a thing that has happened. And I can't wait for you to put this video up so that I can pull this clip and I can fucking tweet this out, because that's 100% correct.
So
her
this week,
campaign manager has set up an LLC and is accused and is actively investigated for drawing a salary from this LLC that the money comes from their campaign funds, which are donations, grassroots, right? So it's all from small donations from people, constituents, people who believe in her. She's literally stealing people's money while talking about dark money and asking for more government money so that she has more incentive to not take money from lobbyists and from corrupt people. Word.
That's a real thing.
But we need equality in this country. We need equity.
Equity, baby.
Colin, we need equity.
That's why we have the Equity Act. Oh, shit. Sorry. The Equality Act.
Yep. And she, but they made sure to mention in this article that, but she made sure that she pays everyone on her staff at least $15 an hour.
Congratulations.
Word.
How's it feel to be a capitalist?
Yeah. Word.
The thing I was going to say about that.
Yes.
Is I have nothing else to add, because you fucking iced that cake perfectly. There is so, and the date, was it the Daily? Shit, no. Oh, I can't remember what podcast that was. I'm going to have to try to go back and figure it out. There was a series of episodes by a very legitimate podcast that dove into the financial fuckery of the AOC campaign.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say it was.
It might be Ben Shapiro.
No.
You don't think so?
Maybe.
I think it might have been.
It might have been.
I don't know really anyone else. Off
I
the top of my head
vividly
that would
remember
dig into
where
that.
I was where I was when I first heard that. And I was driving to the Bainbridge Island Winslow Ferry to go pick up somebody maybe. And I remember listening to that on the way going, what the fuck?
Yeah. I think it might have been intercepted, actually.
Yes.
I think that it was intercepted.
It was the intercept.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
That's what it was.
I was like,
no one else.
You got
I was
me
like,
fucked
it was,
up. Yeah.
It was like the Daily or MP. I was like, no, they wouldn't do that. I was like, might have been the fucking intercepted by.
I think it was
good old Glenn Greenwald.
That shit's crazy. That is crazy. And people just they're loving her. You know, they're fucking tweeting about her all the time. They're sharing videos of her. They're fucking AOC for fucking president. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't.
Bro, yeah, let's do that. Green New Deal all the way.
In that the Seattle Smokers podcast that I was listening to,
I love those guys. They try real hard.
One of those dudes was like, "It's like I'm behind AOC because she's fine." Like, word.
You know, from a podcast that's all about smoking pot.
Yeah,
this is pot and politics. This is not just pot. But that doesn't surprise me coming from their podcast.
Theirs is definitely more pot based than politics based. We definitely smoke a lot of pot here, but
I really like what they're doing.
Yeah,
I wish I was in a realm where I could be like, okay, guys, you come on board with our brand.
Yeah,
we come into our network. We like what you're doing. You're very entertaining. We need to hit quality, and we need to just brush up on some content real quick.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're very entertaining.
That's that would be the type of thing like, okay, you can do this, but there has to be one person there who's looking up the things you're talking about and making sure that you're saying shit that's correct.
Just can't, especially because 100%, 112% behind the fucking cannabis industry. But if you're throwing facts and shit out there, you got to have that shit on lock. Yeah. Because it's all public information, man. It's not that hard to find.
It's like a more lax version of like when we sat down and watched the Hall of Fame game, you know?
Yes.
It's like that. And when we're watching TV and talking about it, that's more of what that show is.
God, I missed that. That was so much fun.
That was a good time.
But I was going to say that I think next week is going to be the preview or the first premiere of our clips. Because that's something we talked about, I think. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I've been getting up extra early every morning, right? And I come out and I do podcast warning. Yes, video clips.
Okay.
For the YouTube channel. So search out YouTube, Salt of the Streets, and you'll find all of our videos there. And we're going to be slowly introducing clips from the show.
Into our social media.
And especially on the social media. And, because they're just so much easier to share. A couple minutes here, share it out there. Yeah. You know, you guys can wet your beak a little bit and it'll chum the waters enough for you to stick around for the whole 2.5+ hour podcast. But I think that's going to be, that AOC is going to be the first clip this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited.
So that's going to be good. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about it because it gives me something to fulfill my creative itch that I keep getting.
She's a shill, bro.
She is a shill, man.
Shill.
And that's what that speaks to. I don't know if it's a lack of moral character on her part or just a commentary on what being in politics does to a person. You know, and I would love to be able to sit down one day with Derek Kilmer and just chop it up about his daily life as a federal representative. How much does it, do you have to pay out of pocket for all your flights? Do you fly first class? How do you stay when you go campaigning? You know, where does that come from? How does it work? Does it work for you? Do you feel like if you have to pay all that stuff out of pocket and it's not like swiped on a government card, that could add up real quick, especially if you're bouncing around trying to campaign and do that kind of stuff.
I wonder how hard it would be to get him 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Just like on this show. Like, if we just hit the number like, hey, when you have time, like, let us know when you have time and one of us can just sit down and do it, you know, and then just bring like the audio for it, because the chances that it happens on a Saturday is like super unlikely, but it would happen sometime during the week
trying to
at
enjoy
fucking
his
8
family
o'clock.
life, probably.
Exactly. So I wonder how hard that would be to be like, yo, we're a small podcast, but we're local as fuck.
Yeah.
And
I will drive my ass to Port Angeles or Squim or wherever the fuck you live in the state. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I will come find you and I will sit down with you for 10 minutes and ask you questions.
Yeah.
Or you can just do another town hall because that would be fucking sweet.
I wonder how difficult that would be.
This is fucked. Okay.
Yep.
Let me tell you about this. So Podcoin, if you guys don't know from listening to our early ad read, Podcoin, if you sign up with our promo code.
Yes.
Oh my God, I can't talk. If you sign up with our promo code, you get an additional 300 Podcoin.
Which is a shitload of Podcoins.
Right? And so I had my brother, I showed him Podcoin. I was like, hey, dude, the best part is if you sign up with our promo code, you get 300 free Podcoins, right? That motherfucker just sent me, he is up to 523 Podcoins.
What the fuck?
Because he signed up.
Because he used our code?
Because he used our code.
That's
which
what's up.
Is dope as fuck.
Salt Pod,
baby. Promo code SaltPod over at Podcoin.
Which you already heard in the ad read this week.
Indeed.
Salt Pod. Damn, that's hella coins, bro.
Yeah, so he's rolling the coins.
That's hella coins.
And he's kind of like, he's like even me and you combined when it comes to podcasts. That dude is on the road early in the morning till he works sometimes from like 7 to like 8 o'clock at night.
Metalwork and shit.
Yeah. And he has podcasts going 24/7. And another fucking, here's another fucking push for Podcoin. But every single podcast I listen to is available on Podcoin. I get paid for every podcast I listen to now.
The only one I haven't found is the commentary.
Oh, that's on there.
It is?
I had to look for it. Yeah, I had to scroll down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I found it. Thank God. Because I died a little inside when Jod Podhorence and Noah Rothman and the whole gang was not on Podcoin.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. You had to scroll down, right? It's weird. But anyway.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So that's there. So what else you got? I have one more quick one too we can hit if you want.
Let's hear it. What's
Hong
your quick
Kong.
one?
What do you know about Hong Kong and what's going on in Hong Kong? Anything?
I've been hearing about it, right? But I guess I just kind of started to realize that like they're almost separate things, like Hong Kong and China, like they're different like type of deals almost.
Oh, they are.
And I didn't really know that. You know, I was unaware of any of that. So I don't know dick about China.
In my, my intense relationship with geopolitics.
Yeah.
Right. And so Russia's a big thing of mine.
Right.
China's a big thing of mine now. Cheers. Another fucking habanero cider. Shout out Finn River. Which we got to take you guys up there one day. It's great. It's a good family friendly place too.
Let's do it.
It's awesome. But anyways, Hong Kong has been going through some things, right? So back in 1997, I'm going to have to look that one up because I'm going to sound like an idiot if I didn't get that one right. 97, Hong Kong used to belong. So Hong Kong is an island just offshore mainland China. And Hong Kong used to belong to the British. And it was annexed by the British a long time ago. And back in 1997, it was given back to China.
Okay.
With a few
caveats.
An
island? That's what you said.
Yeah, it's an island.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bridge you have to go over to get there.
Okay. And I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't. Yeah, you ever heard of Lauren Chen, a.k.a. roaming millennial?
Yeah.
So she's originally from Hong Kong. What's that?
Lauren Southern, right?
No, not Lauren Southern. Lauren Chen. I'll look her up for you. But
I thought Lauren Southern was the roaming millennial.
No, Lauren Southern is fucking Lauren Southern. She's whole nother.
That's a whole nother shit.
There's some dicey kind of like white nationalist type stuff that might run through there a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's see, roaming millennial. She started out just on YouTube. She's Canadian and Lauren Chen, yeah. Word. But now she works for, I think, CRTV or something. I
shouldn't question you when it comes to YouTube. I know better.
I'm kind of on some of those people. But anyway, she's from Hong Kong and Canada. But anyway, so the British gave Hong Kong back to the Chinese back in 1997. And there was this...
How kind of them.
Yeah, right. I know. How kind of them. Well, kind of a caveat to them giving it to the Chinese at that point, right, was the fact that much like Japan, when we kind of handed back over control to Japan after World War II, we said, okay, well, here's the thing. You guys need a specific type of government that meets these certain criteria.
Here's
and stuff.
the thing.
Yeah. And we're not going to let you go full communist on this one, guys. So they drew up what we call the Basic Law for Hong Kong, which is more or less their constitution. It's very similar to our constitution in a way. And there's a few points in there. Article 27 of the Basic Law for Hong Kong states that Hong Kong residents shall have freedom of speech, of the press, and of publication, freedom of association, and of assembly. Essentially, a very closely tied to the First Amendment.
Yeah.
In our world, right?
Yeah.
And that set them apart from mainland China, which at this time was already a socialistic, more or less communist party run socialist state. And so they adopted this kind of turn of phrase, one country, two systems. And so you have Hong Kong, which is this kind of bastion of democracy in China, owned by China, but operating as an independent government. Well, over the last week, they tried to introduce this extradition bill, which would allow anybody that the Beijing government from mainland China wanted to extradite, if they wanted them for crimes against the Chinese state. They wanted to be able to extradite them from Hong Kong, which up until this point was not a possibility. And so it gave mainland Chinese dissenters of the government the ability to come out, go to Hong Kong, seek refuge, and be able to speak against the fucked up nature of the Communist Party, China.
Like Ai Weiwei.
Ai Weiwei.
That's a dude. That's a person. He's an artist.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them that have become pretty popular in the Western world for, speaking against the fucked up policies of communist China. I mean, the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, this guy.
Ai Weiwei.
Chinese,
a lot of authors.
Chinese contemporary artist and activist. His father's original surname was written Zhang. So there you go.
Very nice. So that speaks to the nature. I mean, there's a lot of people that seek refuge from mainland China in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And Article 5 in this Basic Law for Hong Kong states that the socialistic system and policy shall not be practiced in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, which is like their governmental form that they take away from, the mainland China Communist Party.
Yeah.
And the previous capitalistic system and the way of life shall remain unchanged for 50 years, which if you do the math from 1997 is 2047.
Okay.
But it is something that mainland China and President Xi has been...
Xi Jinping?
Yes. He's been trying to undermine that since its onset. And the people of Hong Kong saw this extradition bill come up in their government as a way for mainland China to get a foothold in there, and now they can start snatching up all these dissenters and bringing them back and doing God knows what to do with them.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, China is an interesting country. China has control of the nation of Tibet, which is it should be its own separate nation, right?
Yeah.
There was the whole Tiananmen Square issue. It goes back a long, long time. But
it's
the Chinese
a whole deal.
They have essentially annexed, in the Russia-Crimea form type of thing, annexed Tibet. There's an entire population of what they call Uyghur Muslims.
Yeah.
That are, they are culturally...
In concentration camps.
Yes, they're in fucking concentration camps, but they're culturally they're totally separate from... what you would think, quote unquote,
they got pushed to a whole nother area, and then they got put in concentration camps,
which is a thing that happens to this day.
And the Chinese is like, I don't know anything about that.
It doesn't exist in their mind.
I've heard that before.
You might as well be in North Korea.
There's another country that they have hold of. It's not Cambodia, but it's like some.
Pretty much.
There's another. Is it Cambodia?
Shanghai.
There's another country.
Shanghai.
Like
Well, it used to be kind of like a city state, and it kind of is in this way.
What the fuck am I thinking?
Is it Singapore?
Of?
No, Singapore's a state.
Nope, it's not that one.
Maybe I'm thinking about
like Eddie Wong, whatever he is that.
Yes, Eddie Wong. Oh, fucking Eddie Wong.
You know what I'm saying?
Comedian, right?
And chef.
Yes. Hunan, the Hunan province. That's an island all to itself. But anyways, you could see the fucking trend here. It's just, China's trying to take over the world. I talked about it last episode. But this is something that this extradition bill came out into the public, and they're talking about having discussion on it and debate on this, and it's looking like it's going to pass.
Yeah.
And so the public fucking freaks out, and they mob the streets in what started as a peaceful protest, but once you add 1 million fucking people to a protest, shit's going to happen. And so there was some police violence and stuff the other day, and regardless, everybody was freaked out, and it looked like Hong Kong was going to go and buy into the mainland China and just become another puppet of the Xi Jinping regime.
Right.
Early this morning, the chief executive, I believe is what they call her. Let me find her in my notes real quick. Chief Executive Lam made an announcement and said that essentially they're going to be postponing the bill and to allow for further debate and input. And at this point, there has been no timeline set for the bill's revisiting. And so at this point, they have tabled, not totally 100%, but they've tabled the debate around this extradition bill. So
Taiwan.
It looks like Taiwan. There you go. Yeah,
Sorry.
Taiwan used to be its own thing.
Sorry.
Saipan.
I promise I was listening to you. I promise.
And so
Yes.
we actually had an issue where it looked like China was going to take over Hong Kong.
Right.
The traditional Chinese government. But early this morning, we got some good news, and they're going to table that bill, and it's basically indefinitely sitting
People
on
are
the
freaking the
sidelines.
fuck out, right?
Yes, because you're talking an unknown, probably thousands of people now that can just be scooped up by the Chinese government, thrown into fucking concentration camps, and disappeared.
Until whenever.
Yeah, because that's the way the Chinese government does shit. And it looks like democracy got a victory on this one. I watched that.
Cheers to you, democracy.
But it was a very interesting thing I heard about this week, and I started to follow it, and I'm going, dude, this is not good. Hong Kong can't go that way. That's like the last bastion of, Western civilization in the Eastern world.
Yeah, that's wild.
And thank God it all worked out. So hopefully everybody can rest easy until next time. So 2047. Isn't it weird? Does it seem weird to you that in that type of constitution, I guess, if you want to call it that, like that was written up for this transfer of, a nation state, put a 50-year deadline on it, said, okay, after 50 years, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it, China. Is that a long enough period maybe for democracy to take root and fight back against the socialistic communist government of China?
I think that's probably what they assumed is by that point, communism would have died off. But I also don't think that they assumed China would kind of like hybridize its own form of communism, because they have kind of their own type of shit that goes on, like a capitalistic communism that happens where we monitor shit and we have our hands in everything, but also
it's like a racketeering.
If you want to start a giant ass company and make a fuckload of money, you should do that.
We should do that.
Yeah,
we just need a cut.
Yeah, you hook us up. We're gonna be there though.
Good.
Do it. We're just also gonna know about it and stuff. So I think that
some of the later Bourdain episodes where he's in China dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so
he was doing a CNN program.
I think they didn't consider that it would work like that. That eventually communism would die out there because it sucks, and they would have to go to a democracy.
Well, especially when the way they grew into the monster economic power they are today,
just the industrial
through fucking capitalism, not communism. They use communism to justify silencing all their dissenters, and then just use capitalism to make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So that'll be something to hopefully Hong Kong holds out and this thing doesn't pop back up in the future. I thought that was an incredibly interesting story that occupied a lot of my time this week.
Fuck yeah.
It's a good one. I love democracy rules.
I like that shit. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready to fucking hit sports, and then
let's do it.
I think I have one more line from It's Always Sunny, and then I'll just start
polish them off.
Their shit. Yeah,
I was like, you should. I saw an article the other day, and it was like the top 50 greatest Trump lines, I was like, I gotta send that to you.
And
but I was
rifle
like,
through those.
that thing would be so fucking easy.
That would be really funny.
so
That would be really funny. All right, so sports. So we'll just hit these NFL notes, and then we have some like the NBA Finals are over, Stanley Cup Finals are over, so we'll hit those things. So we'll hit these notes first as far as the NFL. The Vikings, they signed their tight end Kyle Rudolph to a 4-year, $36 million deal. There was lots of thoughts that he was going to get traded because they drafted a rookie tight end this year. But they ended up fucking signing his ass, and he's good. I don't know. He gets shit on a lot, but I think that Kyle Rudolph is pretty good. Like, he's got good hands, and if I think that he's good. The Saints signed their DN Cameron Jordan to a 3-year, $55 million extension, which is a fuckload of money. The Cowboys tight end Rico Gather will be suspended for the first game of the season for 2018 weed charge, and then the Broncos owner Pat Bowen died at 75. So.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which is young.
Pat Bowen.
Like.
Huh?
Yeah. And I'm
75.
not sure.
I wonder if stress has a thing to do with that.
I'm sure Jerry Jones is about 1,000. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Pat Bowen.
That's who it was. There we go.
Oh, Pat Boland.
Pat Bowen.
Oh, I must have missed that L. And let's see.
Hey, it happens.
Yep.
We care about the players and the coaches first.
Yeah.
The ownership second. Pat Bowen.
Let's see. I'm not sure. While I'm looking at that, we'll go over the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals, they're over. Toronto won 4-2.
The Raptors.
Right? The Raptors won.
First time ever.
First time. Yep. And they beat the Warriors, which they got 3 in the last 4 years, I think. I mean, they're fucking amazing. KD was out. There's
Kevin Durant for people that don't speak NBA.
People have been fucking shitting all over the Raptors because not all the players were playing for the Warriors and stuff. Klay Thompson was out. Kevin Durant was out. So
Kevin Durant, Achilles, is at risk of missing the entire 2019-2020 season while recovering from a ruptured right Achilles.
There was a video of it.
Oh God, I don't want to watch that, dude.
You could see like he planted his foot and then you could see his Achilles like snap up into his calf, and then his calf like wiggled from the force of his Achilles snapping.
I can't, dude.
It was fucked up. Yeah.
And then Klay Thompson, knee is expected to be sidelined for 9 to 10 months.
Pat Bowen had Alzheimer's disease. That's fucking sad.
Oh, wow. That is sad.
That is fucking sad.
That's why you got to eat fish eggs, bro.
Dude, that's the key.
The omegas is key.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could see his fucking his calf wiggle from.
Dude, yeah. I can't watch those videos anymore, man. It freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Watching people like break arms or legs or something in football.
There's a running back for the 49ers named Raheem Mostert, and he broke his arm last year. And when you were watching the game on TV, he screamed so loud, it got picked up on the cameras above the stadium, so you could hear it during the play. Like while people are grunting and yelling during a play, you can hear him yell on the field because he broke his arm just right here, just straight in half, just snapped it right in half. Oh yeah, fucked it up, dude. Oh, it was horrible. So the Raptors won 114-110, 4-2. That's 4 games to 2 games. Toronto won. So there you go. Congrats, fucking Toronto. I like
first
that
time
shit.
ever, man.
Yep.
Way to go, Toronto.
And another first. The St. Louis Blues won God damn it. They won the Stanley Cup 4 games to 3 games, 4-1 in the final game over the Bruins. The Bruins have a couple of different titles over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
not a couple of years, but over the time as a club. So
they're always a good bet when it comes on a team going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I don't
the Bruins have been around they've been powerful for a while. They're like the Patriots of the hockey, man. They're always in the contending.
I don't like watching people win too consistent, like a dynasty. You know, like I don't like that. It's not fun
boring
for me as a fan to
like whatever. Why would I watch this? They're gonna fucking win anyway.
I like you being good. I like them to be good. I like it to be competitive, but I like it to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want it to be a fucking like, oh well, I guess the Pats are just gonna win again. You know, like,
that's why the Super Bowl fucking bummed me out, man.
When I watched the Super Bowl this year, like I said, I watched until the clock hit 0 and then I changed the channel because I was gonna watch the whole thing. But I was going to be damned if I was going to watch Tom Brady hoist another fucking Lombardi over his head. Like, I'm not
start crying like a little.
I'm not doing it. You know, I didn't do it. I changed it immediately to something completely different. Like, fuck that. So,
I think I don't know about you, but at least for me, when the Hawks went to the Super Bowl and won, and they were playing Denver.
Yeah.
And it was just an utter fucking shit show.
A blowout,
It was a terrible fucking game. I didn't want that. I wanted a good game where we pulled it off in the end, not
the following year.
Swept.
The following year when we played the Pats.
Yeah.
And like that would have been the game to win. To beat the Pats right there on the line, that would have been the game to win. Yeah. And that's the game I remember because against the Broncos, I was working when I watched it. And so it was like on a projector up on a wall in the call center. And so we were watching it like while I was working. And then the next year I was working for the mattress company. So I had Sundays off. So I was watching it on my living room at home. And I remember watching Russ get that pass off and standing up and throwing my arms up and then being like,
oh no.
Oh fuck. Just with the rest of the state, you know, and probably half the nation that you're just like, yes. And you're like, oh my fucking God. Like what just happened? Like I don't even understand. Yeah. And then
that was a life-altering moment.
And then the immediate thought of like, why wouldn't you run the ball? You know, and just
you're right
years and years of trying to cope with like, it's beast mode on the fucking 2. Like, why wouldn't you run it? Why wouldn't you run the ball? Yeah. So it's a whole deal. I'm over it now, I think, for the most part, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember, like, the dude I worked with, Daryl, was like a huge fucking Seahawks fan. He actually watched the pre-show today.
Nice.
So shout out Daryl. And like, we talked about that all day the next day. All day we talked about the Super Bowl because we're just like, I don't understand why this would happen, like how this happened. I don't like what
nothing makes sense anymore, man.
Yeah, it was really fucked up. I remember that.
Well, I mean, have I told you about my Super Bowl experience?
No.
So the winning Super Bowl, I was stationed in New England at the time. And so thank God this was not a Pats throwdown. This was Denver and Seattle.
Yeah.
But nobody at the Super Bowl party that I was at gave a shit about any of the teams except for me.
You're the only one who cared.
And so here I am trying to like celebrate this shitty fucking game. And I could not get amped up because nobody gave a shit.
You're the only one who's there who wants to talk about it.
It was so depressing to be around. It was so anticlimactic. It's almost like it didn't even happen. It's really sad.
That sucks.
The Seahawks winning the Super Bowl was probably a once in a lifetime event. And to not be able to like truly enjoy that once in a lifetime event to the climax of what it should have been if I was like here was fucking soul crushing.
I definitely understand what you mean.
So rough.
Like I said, I was in the call center, so I was fucking talking to people on the phone, and they're like, you know, just ask them like, hey, you know, how's your day going? And they're like, oh, I'm watching the Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, are you like Denver or Seattle? And like, well, like I'm in Seattle, so like I'm a Seahawks fan. Like I'm hoping for the Seahawks, and talked to a couple people who are from Colorado who were like, "Oh, fuck you," you know. And you're like, "You're right. Like you're shit faced already, and your phone is broken." So.
That's a call center's call you want to take, dude.
Yeah, there's
drunk Denver fan
had a lot of conversations like that day. We're like, "Oh, we're gonna beat your ass." And you're like, "I'm sure, dude. I'm sure."
Sure.
Like that's how it's looking right now.
You know, sir.
Like,
since
just
you're
watch fucking Percy Harvin return that kick. I'm sure you're gonna win. Yeah. Keep telling me about it, dude. The last thing I have for sports is the Women's World Cup, right? Because that's going on right now. And the United States played their first round that I'm not sure what, it was Tuesday. And they fucked on Thailand 13-1. And
that's not even fair, dude.
Here. No, it was absolutely ridiculous.
People are just built different, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was Alex Morgan who scored 5 fucking goals.
Of course it was.
Which tied the record for a World Cup, for the most goals to be scored in a World Cup game, which is like 5. My mom will be upset to hear me say, but that's a retarded amount of goals. That's a fuckload of goals in one fucking game. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot, dude. For a game, 5 is a good amount. You know what I'm saying? But for one player, that is ridiculous. 5 fucking goals. So,
well, fucking Italy just smashed on Jamaica 5-0 too.
Jesus.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, and the next game for the United States is tomorrow, Sunday at 9. They play Chile.
Thailand 13-0.
Yeah, so I'm saying smashed them 13-0. 13.
Fuck me running,
Fucked on
dude.
them. Like I knew that. I don't follow soccer, you know what I'm saying? But like it's big, so it comes up.
You just watch the World Cups, like most people.
So I knew that. I've known for a couple years that like the women's U.S. soccer team is extraordinary.
They have been for a long time.
But Jesus Christ. The rest of these scores, the biggest one, like I said, is Italy and Jamaica 5-0. And the rest of them are 2-1, 1-0, 1-2. Like that's
that's
3-2,
a typical soccer score. It's like hockey.
13-0. Jesus.
That's just sad.
So I'm excited to see them play Chile.
Yeah. Chile lost to Sweden in that round, 2-0.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting game. Hopefully, man, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the group phase.
13-0 is just, it's almost like you just got to quit playing at that point because you don't want to smash on a team that bad.
Well, and soccer's done by points, right? Like you get a certain amount of points for
goals,
wins and no. I mean like if you win, you get 2 points. If you tie, you get 1 point. If you lose, you get no points. At least during the regular season, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Right? Because I remember I've been to one soccer game and we went to a Sounders game and it ended in a tie. And I've never been so upset with the ending of a game before because it felt so un-American to me that we were leaving and there was just a tie at the end of the game. That there was no overtime, there was no anything. It was just a tie. And whoever I was talking to...
they got 3 points as of right now.
Smashing like that?
Well, as of right now, like their total points in the club for Group F with Sweden, Chile, and Thailand. Really? Sweden, Chile, and Thailand? That's
interesting.
That's a tough bracket.
Yeah, I know during the regular season,
Sweden's going to be tough.
If you win, you get the 2. If you tie, you get 1. And then if you lose, you get no points. And then that's how they decide on playoffs and shit is who has the most points. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't follow it enough to know how the World Cup is. Because I guess I would have assumed that Chile wouldn't play anymore since they lost. But it's a different, like I said, this is the group stage. So if anyone knows, tell me. I want to know. Tell me how this works because
I literally just pulled up. I Googled the FIFA Women's World Cup and I'm just looking at points here.
Yeah. No, that's what I had to.
That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking wild? So
13.
If it's at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so maybe I'll watch a little bit of that game when I get home. I'll be home.
Yeah, and then
work.
Thailand and Chile are playing the following week. Sorry.
Tomorrow's my first Father's Day.
Hey, congratulations,
cool.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, we're going to have like a barbecue at Aaron and Michael's house. It'll be a good time.
Hell yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, you deserve it.
Yeah, Jordan got me a present and stuff. I don't know what it is, but we're going to find out since she made it. So I'm excited.
It's like having a second birthday.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Except all you did was have a little fun and pop out the kid.
That's right. That's right. I had
Jordan did all the heavy lifting.
Yep, I had the easy job too. All right. Well, that is all that I have for sports this week. Yeah. So that is all
Line
we have
City,
for
bro.
the show. So we can get the fuck out of here. So let's see here.
Dude, look how many windows I got pulled up on my computer right now.
I have 3 different windows that I'll have
perfect
tabs. Yeah.
That's what I should do next time. Have my topic windows.
So this is the last line that I have from It's Always Sunny. So after this, I'll make sure that I have a line from a different show and people can start guessing again because fuck you, Haley. So, you know what, man? I know how to make it funny. Oh my God. I just shit my pants.
Jesus Christ. That's just like you.